Someone was playing a song. Hyun-jae, dressed neatly and wearing a white hat, was listening to music. He sat alone in the corner, thinking about the mix of the song Cola Boy, a mix by the studio technician. Overall, it was higher quality, but the mix by Miss Hae was no less NDT0. Though rough, each instrument had its own personality, very fitting with the retro vibe of Long Afternoon and created a distinct spatial feeling. Hyun-jae put his phone down on the table, leaned back and continued thinking, what should I do? I like both versions, so I don't know which to approve. Let's go back to the studio and listen again with professional speakers. He took off his headphones and heard the sound of a phone camera clicking Hyun-julik. Looking back, there was a girl secretly taking photos of him. He tried to pull his hat down to cover his face, thinking secret photos weren't new. But being caught like this in a cafe still felt uncomfortable. Since appearing on that variety show, this has happened more frequently. If she asked properly, I'd even be willing to take photos with her. But that kind of person probably just wants to hunt for private life, not for memories. Hyun-ji planned to quietly leave with his cup, ignoring the commotion. It's better to leave quietly. I don't want to disturb this cafe. Oh, Iyuju suddenly rushed over and loudly said this, making him freeze. She came in front of the girl and said, you can't secretly take photos of others in the cafe. Hyun-ji looked on in surprise at Iyuju. The girl still showed no remorse, raising her phone to show proof. I didn't take photos of anyone else. That person was on TV and very famous, she said. Oyudu reacted even more strongly, saying, whether famous or not, when entering here, everyone is a customer, so please don't do that. Hearing this, the girl got angry and shouted, what about me? Am I not a customer? Do staff have the right to treat customers like that? Juju's aura flared, replying coldly, you haven't ordered anything yet, right? Normally, I wouldn't mind if someone just sat without ordering, but disturbing other customers is unacceptable. Hearing this, the girl's face turned pale. She continued, if you don't intend to order, please leave the cafe. The girl's expression darkened, then she let out horrified laughter, quickly slinging her backpack and running away, but not forgetting to stop and threaten. Just wait, I'll give this cafe 1 star on all delivery apps, and I'll post all over social media to ruin this place, got it? But all she got was a sigh of disappointment from Yuzu. Thanks, have a nice day. At that moment, Hyun-jae stepped forward and apologized. Sorry for causing noise in the cafe. She cheerfully replied, it's okay, every cafe has troublesome customers. Handling this is part of the business, then reached out behind her back and smiled brightly at him. So don't worry and remember to come back. Whether you're famous or not doesn't matter. You like cappuccino, right? Hyun-chi looked surprised, then bowed to look at his empty cup and replied, yes, I really like it. Of all the places I've been, this place makes the best. Saying that, Hyun-ji bowed to Iyuju and opened the door to leave. After he left, she exhaled deeply and said, famous people must be really tired, always followed by people like that. Yao looked at her with admiration. Even if famous, the owner was really cool today, keeping regular customers and kicking out troublemakers. Super cool. Oyudu forced a smile and replied, cool? Don't learn from me. This is the fastest way to live a stressful life. Then quickly returned to the previous topic. Even if famous, let's eat beef, right? I'm craving it. Hearing Oyu say that, Yeo Un could only smile and sigh helplessly. He agreed. Okay, on our day off, let's meet in front of the shop. She happily exclaimed, great, see you at 7 p.m. He quickly replied, yes. Night had fallen over the city. Yeo Un stood tapping her phone among the bustling crowd. He looked like a handsome guy out of place, not knowing the way. Ayao stared intently at the information on his phone. Some companies have started recruiting summer interns, but no one I know has applied yet. I guess I'll wait a bit longer. Frowning, glanced at the phone, then sighed deeply, turned off the phone and said, why did I do this? At a time when I should be relaxing, there's no rush anyway. Then fell into deep thought. Decided not to overthink. Everything is still going the right way. Just need to keep going like this. Then the final destination will definitely have results. Suddenly laughed crazily, pointing everywhere. Now let's turn on Long Afternoon and listen to this new track. Exactly my style, super spoiled. Phone buzzed. Yoon calmly checked the notification. What's your question? This is Spotify's indie music playlist. Album cover Long Afternoon was focused on the phone when Iyudu came over. Greeted, hey Yoon, you're early, he replied. Oh boss lady. Suddenly noticed something. He was shocked to see Shin Ah-young with her. Asked, Shin Ah-young? Scratched his head awkwardly. She's here today too? I didn't know, Iyudu explained. And she was smiling happily. She worked hard that day too, so she deserves to eat beef. Shin Ah-young stood behind Iyudu, raised 3 fingers to greet. Hello, Yeo Un oppa. Island shyly responded, oh, hi. Then the 2 women suddenly shouted, let's go eat meat. She replied, yes. Oh, Iyudu's eyes gleamed with desire, loudly said, today's goal is a whole cow. It's been a while since we had the chance. If not full, then no need to go home. Laughed heartily. Shin Yang suddenly came forward and put her arm around Elin. She looked very natural, hugging his arm, speaking normally. Let's hurry and eat, Elin said. Oh ma'am. Her face blushed, looking really attractive, smiled brightly. I haven't had beef in a long time either. Elin looked at Shin Yang as if she were an alien. Spoke up. Okay, let's go, he thought. Why is she suddenly holding my arm? Why do I feel so creepy? Clearly, I just intended to eat beef. But at the music studio of Yeo Un, she was writing musical notes on the iPad. Wrote it down, then immediately tried it on the guitar, humming the notes, mouth holding the guitar pick. Ran her hands through her tangled hair, grumbled, "It's not right, is it the rhythm? Or am I just too hungry?" Scene changes to a crowded barbecue restaurant, beef sizzling on the grill, releasing an intoxicating aroma. Oyudu quickly picked up a piece and put it in her mouth. As the beef melted on her tongue, her face showed bliss, exclaimed, "Delicious. When tired, nothing beats juicy beef." At this moment, Oyuzu noticed the two and spoke, "You two, eat quickly now." But actually the two had been eating for a while. Hearing that, the two were startled and tried to avoid her gaze. Seeing this, Oyuzu called the waiter. "Another bottle of soju, please." Hearing this, Yeo Un glared sharply at Oyudu and spoke irritably. "You just got drunk a few days ago. Aren't you overdoing it?" Seeing this, she forced a smile and changed the subject. "It's okay. As the old saying goes, Oyudu picked up a piece of beef with a serious face and said, 'Fight fire with fire.' Using alcohol to cure alcohol? That sounds ridiculous," he shouted. "There's no such saying." Island looked worried and advised, "Drink in moderation. Only AI is taking care of you." Seeing him worried about her, Oyudu teased, "I've got you covered." Elun immediately objected. "I'm not the one taking care of you." At that moment, Shin Ayang, sitting beside them, attentively observed their conversation. Suddenly smiled meaningfully, then exclaimed, "You two are really close." Shin Yang was curious, "Have you known each other before?" She shook the bottle evenly, then said, "No. Just been working together for a long time," Oyudu explained. "Sometimes we eat like this. He lives alone." "Me too, so when free we hang out." Hearing this made Cho even more curious, vaguely asking, "So you two dated before?" Hearing Shinyang's question, he was so shocked he spat out his food. Elin hurriedly explained, "What nonsense are you talking about? We just eat together," she laughed lightly. "But it's just the two of us, one male and one female," he hurriedly denied. "It doesn't mean we're dating." Oyudu calmly raised her glass, sipped a bit, then casually admitted, "Yeah. It was me who once seduced Islan." She glanced at him, mock scolding, but he kept pretending to be cold, so annoying. Elin shouted, "Stop making things up." Oyudu laughed happily, teasing, "Sorry." Then suddenly Shin Yang stared at him intently. Then she suddenly asked, "Do you live alone?" Shin Yang leaned closer to Yelun, curious. "So no girlfriend, right? Don't you feel a bit uncomfortable when she acts like that?" He hesitated and said, "Yeah, I live alone and don't have a girlfriend." Seizing the opportunity, Oyudu's eyes flashed as he asked, "But you're already seeing someone, right?" Hearing that, her eyes lit up with anticipation as she eagerly asked again, "Really? Who is it? So it's someone you know?" In the barbecue restaurant, Shin Yang's voice echoed, "Don't tell me it's Zuzian CA." Hearing that, Elun looked confused and asked, "Who?" "I've never met anyone like CA, he said, lifting his glass with a slightly embarrassed look. "She's just someone I happen to meet occasionally. It's not a date or anything. I don't even have her phone number yet," he added. Suddenly, a hint of sadness flashed in his eyes, "But if anyone asked about our relationship, I'd say she's the one I want." Continuing the conversation, Shin Yang raised his glass to drink, but his eyes never left Eon. Seeing him lost in thought, she spoke up to change the subject. "Your glass is empty." Shin Yang lifted the bottle and asked, "Want another drink?" Seeing the junior invite, Eon also raised her glass and hesitated before replying. "Ah, yeah, thanks," she said. Seeing the two ignoring her, she put her glass forward and whined. "Don't you see my glass is empty? That's terrible." Oyudu laughed heartily and said, "Pour quickly. Tonight we have to drink to the fullest." Hearing that, Shin Yang happily exclaimed, "Sounds great," but he was the only one who refused, saying, "No, I don't want a hangover." Meanwhile, in the music studio, Hei lay dejectedly on the floor playing the guitar. She kept trying but couldn't find a satisfying melody, thinking to herself, "This isn't working. The transition part isn't quite right. Should I adjust the pre-chorus structure?" Suddenly, Hyun Sung opened the door excitedly calling, Hey, In, what are we eating tonight?" Seeing Hei In lying dejectedly on the floor, he was startled and asked, "Why are you lying on the studio floor? Are you practicing for a performance?" She sat up and replied, "I'm not performing live, just practicing because I got an idea while composing, so I just lay down." Hearing this, Hyun Sung looked a bit doubtful, saying, "That's strange. You've always composed easily and smoothly before." Hei stared at the guitar hesitantly. "Sometimes it's like that, but I can't always do it the same way." She ran her hand through her hair, and this time, "I don't understand why I want to spend time writing a really good song." Hei-in hesitated for a while, then Hyun Sung smiled gently and suddenly stood up to suggest, "Let's go out to eat and relax your mind." Hearing that, she was a bit surprised and said, "Eat out? What about the studio?" He pointed to the next room. "Some friends are practicing there. I'll ask them to keep it down. So let's go out to eat and watch people pass by. Who knows, you might get new ideas," Hyun Sung said to Hei-in. Hei-in agreed. "All right, let's go." Hyun Sung exclaimed, "Let's go pick some dishes." She replied, Yes. After a drinking session at the barbecue restaurant, the group left. Yuju exited the restaurant, already drunk. Holding an empty bottle with teary eyes, she lamented, "So lonely." Hearing this, IEU glared at Oyudu, wondering what was going on. We just ate beef. Why are you complaining? Despite hearing this, she kept complaining. But I still feel lonely. Going home means being alone again. Oh, Yoo turned around to look at him, feeling a bit regretful inside. If only I hadn't divorced back then. Even if life is hard, he said, annoyed. Again, you promised you wouldn't regret it. Hearing Iu scold her, she quickly apologized. Sorry. Oh, Iu laughed and let it go, then invited. Ah, I know. How about we go to Club 2? I'll treat you. Hearing that, he immediately refused. You have class early tomorrow, so today I'll pass, and I've already had a bit too much, she muttered after his refusal, frowning. So boring. I was going to order something expensive. Then Oyudu staggered in the opposite direction from the two and said, all right, I'll go alone then. Hearing that, Ian worriedly said, you're going to drink alone? Is that okay? She calmly twisted the bottle and said, it's fine, I know the owner. Oh, Yoo turned and waved goodbye to the two. Be careful. Watching her go alone, he sighed deeply, truly worried she might pass out again. Her health isn't good, but she still pushes herself. Suddenly, Xinjiang's eyes looked strange as he stared at Yilun. Suddenly, she moved close to him. Then she took his hand and draped it over her arm. Xinjiang hesitated and asked, so where are we going? Hearing that, Yeo Un blankly looked away. She smiled softly and said, there's a fresh beer place nearby I often go to. Let's have a drink there. Hearing that, he immediately raised his voice to question, didn't you just say you were full? Xinjiang forced a smile to brush off the matter. Because earlier he said he wouldn't go, so I tried to hold back, but she kept pressing close to me. Yeo Un smiled and made a sincere suggestion. Actually, I want to talk more with you, so let's just drink lightly and then go home, okay? He felt a bit uncomfortable and made an excuse to let it go, saying he was a little tired. Hearing that, she seemed to see through something. Xinjiang smiled meaningfully and asked, don't tell me you're thinking about that person, huh? She teased playfully. Even if so, it was just a casual acquaintance, no confession made, and they weren't a couple yet. Xinjiang advised, if you take it too seriously, you'll only hurt yourself. Maybe they are just playing around. Didn't he see it that way? Hearing Xinjiang say such unpleasant words, Yilun's eyes showed a bit of anger. He decisively pulled her hand away and said sternly, even if that person is just joking around. He put on a serious face and firmly stated that he still wanted to be serious, expressing his own viewpoint. When I like someone, I always face it honestly, even if later I get hurt and cry alone. Then Yilun refused, saying that from now on, the boss lady would have to drink during those times. Surprised by these words, Xinjiang suddenly laughed and pressed close, wrapping her arm around his. She praised him, you really are a wonderful man, then winked and explained. Don't feel too guilty, okay? I just want to be your close friend. Next time, drink when the boss lady is here. Seeing her act like that, he snapped angrily. I know, but why do you keep holding my arm all the time? Xinjiang pouted, it's a habit. I even hold the boss lady's arm too. Hearing that, Yang shouted, these kinds of things make me uncomfortable. She begged, just let me hold your arm until the next station. Yunjin helplessly thought, this girl is drunk and soft. Dealing with drunk people is really exhausting. Suddenly his eyes caught something. It turned out Yeonjun saw Hyun Sung walking with Hae In, with his arm around her shoulder. At that moment, she was also surprised, turning her head to look where he was looking, seeing Ea Yoon holding hands with someone else, which shocked Hae In. She quickly leaned close to him. When the traffic light changed, vehicles started moving, and Ea Yoon curiously kept watching. The recent scene made him suspicious, muttering, what was that? That was Hae In, right? So the one who put his arm around her is her boyfriend? On this side, she also couldn't believe it, covering her face and muttering, no way, no way. The person who just held hands with him was Yeo Un, his girlfriend. Scene changed suddenly to a big wave, repeatedly crashing. The small Ieyun was being hit by the waves. He shouted loudly for help. Help! Help! While Ieyun struggled helplessly. Someone, please help me. I don't know how to swim. The waves kept battering him. Ien screamed in despair. Help! Damn it! It turned out it was all his imagination because of yesterday's incident that made Yeo Un so anxious. He stood there stirring his drink. The more he stirred, the worse Yeo Un's mood became. At that moment, Oyudu stepped over and called out, Yulun, did you make 2 Blue Moon S drinks for table 13 yet? He was startled and hesitated. Ah, not yet. Hearing that, she frowned and scolded. What are you doing? Planning to carve the drinks into ice or what? Why is it taking so long? Yulun realized his mistake, looking dejected. Sorry, I'll do it right now. Seeing he had no spirit to work, she clenched her fist and threatened, if you're still dazed when you get home, I'll slap you in the face. Got it? Hearing that, Yulun timidly replied, yes, sorry. He then stepped out of the bar while he carried 2 trash bags to throw out. Yoon wiped his sweat and sighed, thinking, what's wrong with me today? I haven't written a single word of the essay, just sitting here blankly. Suddenly he remembered yesterday's scene. Yoon's eyes became irritated. At that time, Hae In was with that person. If they were that close, they must be dating. The more he thought, the more uncomfortable he felt inside. Yeo Un lowered his head, clenched his fists, and thought, what the hell? She said there was no one. Could it be that he was the only one taking it seriously? In a moment of lost control, he angrily smashed the trash can. After calming down, Yeo Un bitterly bent down to pick it up, muttering curses. But while picking up the trash he spilled, he kept complaining, That's why human emotions are so complicated. I used to feel happy just talking to her, but before I knew it, I wanted her to be mine alone. The sound of picking up trash echoed in the alley behind the bar. Scene changed to a corner of the city. In the studio, music played softly. Hye-in sat quietly in a corner, her eyes tired. Hyun-jae stepped in front of her. He asked about the remix, and the technician had referenced Harin's version all night. Hearing that, she only gave a casual reply. Yeah, sounds okay. He held the phone in his hand, wanting Harin to listen to another remix. Ben spoke up. It's also a test version. Want to hear it? I emphasized the long afternoon part more. She responded indifferently. Up to you. If you want a remix, then do it well. I don't need your input, she said. Hearing this, Hyun-jae was a bit dissatisfied. He sat down, his tone slightly annoyed. Wait, your singing, Hae-in, isn't good like that. Hyun-jae said seriously. You can't do this carelessly. No matter how you feel, you have to work seriously. He spoke seriously, correcting her work attitude. If this was just a hobby, it would be different. But this song involves the effort of many people. The band musicians, technicians, the production team. If you slack off now, it's like betraying everyone. Hyun-jae warned in a low voice. You have to be serious to the end. No half-hearted work. After hearing these words, it seemed Hae-in realized her mistake. She slapped her own face to regain spirit, corrected herself, and admitted, sorry, I didn't do it properly. Seeing her expression at that moment, he couldn't help but smile slightly. Hyun-jae relaxed, shrugged, and joked a little. Of course, as the producer, I have to stay professional. Seeing Hae-in's unusual expression, he was a bit curious and asked privately, is something wrong? Your face looks strange today. She pulled down her mask, stammering, it's nothing. Hae-in suddenly recalled the image of Yeo Un holding Shin Young's arm affectionately last night. She pondered for a moment, then her eyes reddened until tears fell. Hae-in jumped up, grabbed her hair, and shouted angrily, really? She turned to Hyun-jae and yelled, I really don't understand humans. Hearing this, his face showed confusion. He asked, what do you mean? She calmed down and muttered, humans are so inconsistent. Sometimes like a puppy you take for a walk, sometimes sneaky behind others' backs. Suddenly, Hae-in tried to reassure herself. I really believe he wouldn't betray me, but in the end, I'm not sure. Seeing this, Hyun-jae could only sigh. He smiled softly and spoke gently. When meeting someone, don't get too deep. Hyun-jae advised, understanding human nature. It's like looking at the bottom of a river through the water. Even if you think you know how deep it is, you can never be sure. He concluded, you think it's deep, but it turns out shallow. Only you get hurt. Hyun-jae sincerely gave her advice, so she should place her trust correctly and meet others with low expectations. The greater the expectation, the heavier the burden. Hearing his advice, Hae-in lowered her head, folded her arms, silently thinking, Hyun-jae is right. No matter how much hope I have, people don't behave as I expect. Deep inside, an image of a little girl wearing a fish hat appeared, and because of that, she was afraid and hid behind a cheerful facade. Hae-in pulled her mask up, still feeling a bit blurry inside. But could it be that she was beside Yeo Un, just to have such a superficial relationship? Remembering that bright smile, she clenched her sleeve and screamed silently inside. So frustrating. Hae-in's face became frowning, silently thinking she was very angry with hundreds of things she wanted to shout out loud. Yet she still wanted to see that hateful face once more. Scene changed to the stairs going down to the subway. At the subway station, very few people waited for the train. Suddenly, Yeo Un's eyes showed surprise as he saw her standing and texting from afar. He looked at Hae-in texting while waiting for the train, feeling a bit puzzled inside. Today she wasn't sitting anymore, just standing. His eyes frowned, and he gave himself an answer. She doesn't want to talk anymore? Because she already has a boyfriend? He angrily tightened the strap of his bag, then sighed and turned away. Fine. I won't cling pathetically. Probably won't see each other again. Suddenly, he appeared with a frustrated face. Lulu stared at her. He spoke up, suggesting, let's talk a bit. Hearing that, Hae-in asked confusedly, talk about what? He looked serious and questioned her. I suddenly spoke up, suggesting we talk for a bit. Hearing that, Hae-in asked confusedly, talk about what? He seriously questioned her. Hae-in, do you have a boyfriend? She was stunned upon hearing that. Boyfriend? I said I don't have one. Frowning, he questioned me. I saw you holding hands with a man the other day. Isn't he your boyfriend? Hae-in put her hand on her hip, recalling when she went out to eat with Hyun-sung, and quickly explained, holding hands? He's probably my uncle. He looked skeptical, with a hint of sarcasm in his voice. Your uncle? How can he be your uncle when he looks so young? Yoon let go of the reproachful words. Who are you trying to fool? Do I look that stupid? Hearing that, Hae-in blushed furiously, eyes angry as she looked toward Yoon. She couldn't hold back and questioned, what about Yoon? Doesn't he already have a girlfriend? The other day I saw that girl holding his hand. At that moment, he recalled the part about Shinung holding his hand and explained, holding hands? She's just a coworker from my part-time job. Hearing that, Hae-in was even more incredulous and irritated, sarcastically saying, a coworker, huh? Is it that every girl you date you hold hands with? Are you the lead singer of Rolling Stone or what? Hearing these accusations, Yeon hurriedly denied, no, she did it herself. She immediately retorted, so the dinner was also her decision? You don't want Hae-in to misunderstand. he explained. It wasn't a date, just a restaurant party. She still couldn't believe it and questioned, who goes to a party at a restaurant with only 2 people? The boss Yeo Un spoke up to defend himself. The boss came too, but the 2 of us just argued the whole time. At this point, Hain was too tired of arguing. She waved her hand, saying, forget it, don't talk anymore. You don't believe me anyway, so what's the point? In anger, she accidentally said something hurtful. You're just a waste of time. Hearing that, Yeo Un immediately asked back, do you really think that? He was extremely upset and questioned, do you think all this time was just a waste? The announcement sounded for the next train arriving. Hain lowered her head, voice slightly choked. I didn't mean that. Suddenly, he came over and hugged her shoulder tightly, making a proposal. Then waste tonight. Take me, Yoon said seriously. I will prove to you that I am sincere. I will prove it. Hain was stunned, mumbling confusedly. Prove it at the supermarket? Oyudu was deep in thought, because there were too many choices on the shelf, making her hesitant inside. Oyudu hesitated. 2 cans or maybe 4 at once? Or drink bottled beer for a neat finish? What should I do? She imagined if she drank this while watching a new romantic movie starring Kim Yoon. I like guys with thick eyebrows. My brain will probably melt slowly, and it will feel great. Finally, Oyudu decided, alright, just 1 can is fine. But when she picked it up, she hesitated. Internally, Oyudu thought, can't open it. No, I just drank yesterday. Can't drink every day. Today I have to hold back. At the same time, she sighed. Lately, every time I get drunk, it takes longer to recover. Feels like I'm gaining weight too, Oyudu thought. It's really annoying. Even with money, I can't eat and drink comfortably. While sighing, she heard a call. Miss, it's Yen. Along with Hain rushing over, seeing clearly who was coming, she was surprised. Jian, Oyudu, what's up? Why are you here? Missed the last train and came back? He was embarrassed. No, not like that. I need to confirm something. Then he introduced Hain. Let me introduce. This is the cafe owner, where I work part-time. She nodded and greeted politely. Nice to meet you. Inside, Oyudu was suspicious. Who is this girl? Wait, is she the girl I guessed? But Jian said he met her on the last train, so Oyudu silently judged she wasn't the type she imagined. But she was also very pretty, and Oyudu understood why Jian paid attention. At that moment, Yoon suddenly asked, Miss, did we go to a party before? She recalled. Right, I took you and Shenang to eat beef. He hesitated. Shenang, the one who ate with us that day. I want you to confirm something about her. Ion hurriedly. I only ate with her as a co-worker, right? His attitude made Oyudu smile secretly at John. So that's it. I understand now. She helped. Yes, they were just co-workers. That was probably the only time. They talked politely with each other, right? Not stopping there. Oyudu talked non-stop, recounting even though they met every day. But actually, the longest time they talked was about 10 minutes when handing over shifts nearby. Hain was slightly embarrassed, teasing. Simply put, she and Jian have no relationship at all. Still, she didn't believe it. But I saw them holding hands. Oyudu was a bit flustered. That was just her being overly friendly. She remembered when at the SAO cafe, why did you hug me like that? Shin Yang happily replied. Because I like the owner, even if IU confesses. She also often holds my arm whenever the 2 of us mention this. Yeo Un is just frustrated. I was the same because that day walking home, she kept holding my arm even though I told her not to, right? She agreed. I think it's just her habit. Probably grew up in a family that often shows affection. Seeing her still staring at me, he felt a bit uncomfortable. However, Hae-in's eyes showed some concession. She agreed. That's right, I will trust you because it's the owner's words, so I was just waiting for that. Ilun breathed a sigh of relief, thanked her. Standing outside, she quietly observed the 2, then suddenly asked if they wanted me to take them home. Because Oyudu was worried that by now the buses and subways would have stopped running, right? I'm just going out for some fresh air. Might as well take you 2 along, seeing SAO. He was shy. If you've offered, then thank you. Unexpectedly, Hae-in refused. Thanked, but said it wasn't necessary because Island would go with me. There's a place we need to go, she frankly explained. This time it's my turn to prove. That sentence stunned Ayun. Hae-in bowed. Sorry for bothering you at this hour, which made her feel awkward. It's okay. Goodbye. After saying goodbye, she immediately called out, follow me. He shyly agreed and quickly said goodbye. Meanwhile, she quietly followed the backs of the 2. In Oyudu's heart, she sighed, I can't take it anymore, and decided to be spontaneous. Just 1 can today, and wondered when it would be her turn. In the quiet night, some houses still had lights on. Gradually, fewer people were awake late at night. Somewhere the noisy sound of a gamer could be heard, because the game result was a loss. Hyun-sung angrily shouted, oh my god, he angrily cursed. Why is this game so hard? Do they intend to let people win? This character is supposed to be the strongest, but it's useless. So frustrating. Just then, the doorbell rang. Hyun-sung grumbled, who comes at this hour? He was annoyed and asked who it was. Seeing who came, Hyun-sung was surprised. What, Hain, why are you here? However, she ignored and asked him, I have something to ask. I'm your niece, right? Although he didn't understand what it was about, he still answered yes. Unless suddenly cutting off relations. Why? Hain explained. This person kept asking, Is Uncle your boyfriend? Hearing this, Hyun-sung was stunned. Uncle, a boyfriend? How could there be such a misunderstanding? So sorry. He was self-flattering that maybe it's because he looks young for his age. She mocked. Sorry? You look more like a sugar daddy, Hyun-sung retorted. Uncle isn't that old, Hae-in sarcastically said. Not old, but you are aged. He was angry. It's all the same. While the two argued, Yoon stared at Hae. He recalled before seeing uncle and niece putting arms around each other, now seeing them quarrel fiercely. Two opposite states surprised Aeun, and also made him laugh. Aeun was happy because she took the initiative to explain to him. That laugh attracted Hyun-sung's attention. No matter what, who are you? Why did SAO conclude like that? He guessed, wait, are you Hae-in's boyfriend? He shyly said not exact, just curious, so I asked. Hae-in punched and kicked him. Don't talk nonsense like that. Go inside and sleep. That's it. But Hyun-sung wondered, Uncle understood, but how will you two get home? At this hour, public transport has stopped. She was embarrassed. We'll figure out whether to take a taxi or walk, he doubted. Taxis have night surcharges now. Hae-in replied, I know, but what other way? Really walk? Hyun-sung thought a moment, then advised, wait for me a bit. He proposed to drive you two home. This time she doubted he could drive, but he doesn't have a car. Hyun-sung quickly replied, I can borrow one. She didn't believe it. Borrowing a car at this hour. Who to borrow from? He arrogantly said, I have connections here. Immediately, Hyun-sung ran off. Okay, uncle, I'll go borrow the car. If you call, you two come down. However, Hae-in stopped him. Wait, uncle, but he just said chill and disappeared. She was a bit embarrassed. Sorry, uncle, I'm too persistent. Yeo Un quickly replied, it's okay. I should thank you for getting home. When only the two remained, the atmosphere became awkward. He thought to himself, I don't know what to say anymore, thinking carefully. I have no right to blame anyone. No need to drag this out. Just going in circles makes things worse. Then Yoon scolded herself for looking pitiful. While I wasn't even Hane's boyfriend yet, she suddenly called Yoon and hinted that the night air was cold, didn't she? Unexpectedly, he honestly replied that it was spring, and she suddenly suggested, then let's make up. Besides that, she also gave some opinions and talked about something fun. Not only that, Hae-in also said that she just wanted to go inside, sit in a warm room, and have a pleasant conversation with him. While taking a night walk, she reached out her hand. This action made him awkward, but Hae-in didn't seem happy about it. What are you doing? Aren't you going to hold my hand? Shouldn't we make up first? Yeo Un immediately became alert. Isn't it supposed to be making up? He also admitted, sorry for the misunderstanding. Yeo Un blamed herself, thinking she should have taken the initiative first. It's not just about clearing up misunderstandings and mending the relationship, but also about how to improve the atmosphere. On her part, she also expressed, I'm sorry for doubting you. Suddenly, Hae-in spoke in a low voice. Hey Yoon, she said, your hand is bigger than I thought. He was stunned. Really? I think it's normal. But Hae-in found it amusing. No, I think it's much bigger than my hand. Try comparing them. After trying, Yoon happily exclaimed, you're right. Why is your hand so small, Hae-in? She laughed and replied, because my hand is small, not because your hand is too big, Yoon. He wondered, that's great. With such small hands, how do you play guitar? Can you reach from C to C? Hae-in teased, from C to C, do you think I'm playing piano? Guitar has a different structure. I can still play an octave without breaking my fingers. She also boasted, as for piano, I can only reach from C to E. Yoon was stunned. Really? I can't believe it. Hae-in insisted it was true. I'll show you later. He was excited to be praised by Hae-in. She recalled that she had learned a bit of piano as a child. Right after, Hae-in suggested, let's go inside and wait, okay? She clarified, don't worry, just sit and chat like usual while waiting for my uncle to arrive. Seeing her enthusiasm, Yoon happily agreed. Sounds good. Meanwhile, he was curious about what his uncle did for a living. Hae-in informed him that her uncle was the owner of a recording studio she often visited. Yoon understood that it was a family business. She explained, not exactly, I'm just freeloading. Since he's the studio owner, it's not surprising. Inside the house, there were many musical instruments, and the room was quite tidy. Hae-in reminded him, just relax on the beanbag. I'll go find something to drink. He immediately replied, okay. While she was mumbling about whether there was anything left to drink, Yoon looked around. Around were music outfits and instruments. Suddenly he remembered that Hae-in's uncle used to play in a band. While waiting, he obediently sat on the beanbag and his eyes caught a game console. He thought to himself that he had always dreamed of having one like that. Besides, his wandering thoughts recalled that Hae-in often mentioned her uncle, so she must have come here often before. Too curious, he wondered what Hae-in was like as a child. In the kitchen, she was nagging, why is there still so much leftover food? Yoon imagined that she must have been very pretty as a child and probably got a lot of attention. He really wanted to see her school photos. While he was still daydreaming, she came close and said, here, I got this in the kitchen. It's just apple juice though. Yoon awkwardly said thank you, surprised. She sat close beside him, making him startled. He suspiciously thought, why is she sitting so close to me? Hae-in was indifferent. There's no other way. There's only one beanbag. I'll sit over there so you can sit comfortably. However, she stopped him. Just sit here, because leaning on each other like this is more comfortable. She further persuaded, this beanbag is old and not as soft as before. Hae-in said so, and he had no choice but to agree. Then I'll sit here, their shoulders lightly touched. She teased, see? It's not uncomfortable, right? Yoon admitted, yeah, that's true. Hain said the beanbag was old. So if you sit alone, it's easy to lose balance. That's why whenever I come to my uncle's house, we often sit like this. His heart was tangled again, feeling like she was still the one taking the initiative. Yoon silently blamed himself. I'm the one who caused all this to drag on until now. I should have done something, he thought. Not only to break the awkwardness, but also to bring them closer. Seeing Yoon's expression, she suspected, why are you looking at me like that? He hurriedly covered up. It's not just that, Yoon is curious. You and your uncle must be very close, right? Looking at the two earlier, they seemed like friends. Hein admitted, yeah, we are close. When I was little, my uncle often took care of me. She recounted, my only older brother was always busy studying, and both my parents worked, so I was often alone at home. My uncle often comes to play guitar for me to listen to. Hae recalls that he was very handsome back then, but now he's old. Elu laughed, saying he still looked stylish, but she mocked him for staying up late playing games all the time, his face full of wrinkles. An joined in, let's watch, it's not that serious. Suddenly, he became thoughtful for a moment and then unexpectedly called Hain, hesitating. The way my uncle called her name sounded really warm. Uncle, you and Hain, this confusing thing is normal, right? Why did he take that opportunity to suggest it? I also want to call you like that and try to test it out. We're close now, so calling like that should be okay, right? Do you feel shy? I'm not sure. Actually, I prefer the current way of addressing each other. Hearing that, he immediately denied it. I'm always zeroed out. Why do I always have to do what Hein likes? I also want to do what I like. Hain wondered why he suddenly acted like that. She imagined him like a puppy whining, really adorable. In the end, Hein gave in. All right, I'll give in, but you can only call me 10 times. More than that, I won't allow it. Got it? More than expected, Yoon happily agreed. Then he kept calling Hain repeatedly, making her dizzy. Hain scolded him. What are you doing? Why call 10 times in a row? He looked confused. You said 10 times. Then he blushed. You don't like it? She asked. He explained. It's not that I don't like it, but I just feel a little shy. Her eyes briefly showed thoughtfulness. Suddenly, Hain asked back, so now it's my turn, right? And she immediately called Yoon's name repeatedly. Hearing Hein call his name, he felt shy. Embarrassed, he shouted, what is that? Why are you copying me? She argued. I want to call you too. Not only that, Haeun also teased, don't you like Ayun? This question made him awkward. Ayun blushed deeply and replied, it's not that I don't like it. She teased him for being shy. Now you know how I feel, huh? His inner self screamed, oh my god, what's wrong with me? Am I a pervert? It's just calling a name, but why is my heart beating so fast? Ayun wondered why he felt so excited. Seeing him like that, Hain felt very happy. She smiled softly, but her expression suddenly became sad. Hae recalled Hyun-jae once said, understanding someone's heart is like standing high above and guessing the depth of a river. You think you understand, but actually, you understand nothing. He also said that only when you jump in do you realize the river isn't as deep as you thought. At that time, only you get hurt. Therefore, Hyunja reminded me to only trust people moderately at first, and only expect the minimum, because too much expectation makes you misunderstand them. That's why I told myself, I don't want to get hurt anymore because I once trusted the wrong person. However, Haeun secretly thought, but tonight, I want to dive in without thinking. After deciding, she called Yoon. I have something to tell you, Haeun confided. Actually, I have betrayed before. This was a pain she kept hidden. Yoon was stunned. What? He asked in shock. Betrayed? Meanwhile, the camera in the music room was recording. Heron was sitting focused, eyes closed, feeling the keys lightly glide over her fingers. Suddenly, another voice rang out. Heron turned her head to look at the person who spoke and was asked, sing anything, I'm filming, hey. In the frame, Hein covered her face and shyly joked, what, suddenly filming me? I haven't even put on lipstick yet. The other person continued speaking. Come on, it's okay. You look fine, very cool. Hurry and sing something. I still have to post on TikTok. Hain in the frame smiled lightly and said, TikTok? I haven't posted anything there for a long time. Then the other person urged her to sing faster. Hain, sing something popular. Don't sing those weird foreign songs anymore. Hain was a bit annoyed and pouted. Hey, you told me to sing what I like. So I sing according to my own wishes. The other person was a bit helpless and said, all right, but at least sing something people recognize. So cute. Hain hesitated a bit. A song everyone knows? Then suddenly remembering a song, she exclaimed, ah, that song is good. Then Hain tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. All right, I'll sing now. The other person was a bit happy and cheerfully said, okay, I'm filming. All right, I'll sing now, the other person said, looking a bit excited and cheerful. Okay, I'll start recording. Then Heron began to pluck the piano keys, producing notes full of emotion. After that, she started to sing. Her face was full of happiness. Harin's friends stood there filming, and when they saw her sing, they showed excitement on their faces. Haein was focused on singing, her expression incredibly captivating, making others seemingly unable to look away. Returning to the present, that joyful expression seemed to be gone, replaced instead by sadness on her lips, no longer smiling at that moment. Yeo Un beside her spoke up. his voice a bit hesitant. She said she had been betrayed. Hae-in, with a bitter expression, began to recount the details. Back in high school, I had a few close friends when I first enrolled, but she fiddled with her small hands as if recalling. I didn't know how to describe it properly. Her expression suddenly darkened, then both fell silent without anyone speaking. Yoon's eyes were a bit complicated as he looked at the girl beside him and suddenly spoke to comfort her. It's okay. You don't need to tell all the details. Just say as much as you can. I will always listen when you're ready. His face shone with gentleness toward the girl in front of him. Hae-in's eyes at this moment were a bit surprised mixed with curiosity, then fell as if pondering something. She continued telling, at first, they were very good to me. They were my first friends when I entered school. They knew I liked playing guitar, knew I studied music, and wholeheartedly supported me. I once thought that even if the whole world didn't believe in me, at least they did. I believed they believed in my dreams. They were beside me, listening to me play and sing. But in the end, it turned out not to be so. Haren's voice gradually lowered. She continued, I don't understand why, but images of them mocking me suddenly appeared. At that time, Haren was standing dazed at the classroom door. She seemed unable to believe what she had heard. They were scrolling on their phones while mocking her like a joke. Their fingers continuously tapped quickly on the screen. In front of me, they acted like friends, laughing, helping, speaking kindly, but behind my back, they criticized and mocked me, looked down on me. She looked at the comments on her live broadcast. They said I had no talent but acted like an artist. Her head seemed hit by a wave, striking straight into her thoughts. So Hae-in seemed to tremble more. Her voice choked as she said, I'm a loser. So sometimes I got caught up in very negative thoughts. Yeo Un sat beside her, a bit unable to believe what she had heard. He was a little embarrassed. Hae-in spoke about her thoughts at that time. What do people who say they're my friends really think of me? Do they really want to hang out with me, or are they secretly laughing behind my back? She bent down lower. Those anxious thoughts drowned her. Hae-in's eyes showed extreme sorrow. Yeo Un beside her also darkened his face. Following her gaze, he secretly looked at the girl beside him. He suddenly grabbed her hand. That's why, yet you still bravely told me? Thank you. Yeo Un's voice carried comfort toward this little girl. He continued speaking. These past few days, I've been very happy to meet you, Hae-in. I could talk about Long Afternoon with you, and also learn many new music genres from you. Yeo Un's face lit up with a smile, thanking her for sharing all those things, and everything I just said is completely sincere. Hae-in was a bit surprised at the other's gentle attitude, then her eyes darkened once again at Yeo Un. She recalled when he helped her get things from others, then other actions like covering her with a blanket and comforting her when she was sad. His sad eyes and every expression seemed to appear in Hae-in's mind. She thought, in my eyes, Yeo Un, even his joyful smile when he saw her. Hae-in let out a light laugh. She spoke, you don't need to say anything. Her smile grew clearer. Hae-in's voice carried happiness. Everything was clearly shown on his face. Yeo Un was a bit puzzled, touching his own face. My face, huh? Hae-in beside him answered, yeah. His expression said it all. Her voice carried a bit of charm. His thoughts always showed on his face. I used to think this person probably could never lie. Yeo Un was also a bit shy at this moment. He stammered, really? I thought my face looked cold. Hae-in's laughter grew louder. Cold face? Are you joking? Un immediately refuted. Not true. Even my boss says I look cold. Hae-in interrupted. Maybe it's because you didn't want to work at that time. Her laughter made Un unable to help but be embarrassed. It could be very confusing. Then Hae-in stopped laughing and asked the other person, so, do you want to verify it? Yeo Un sat timidly beside her, his eyes a bit questioning. Verify? At that moment, Hae-in suddenly grabbed his arm. She pressed it close to her body. The atmosphere seemed to freeze. Hae-in's eyes carried an unforgettable charm. I will try to guess what you, Yeo Un, are thinking just by looking at your face. Yeo Un's expression was embarrassed. He froze for a moment as if he had discovered something interesting on his face. Hae-in quickly moved even closer. Her eyes showed a mischievous look, catching the other person off guard. In Yoon's mind at that moment, a warning bell rang. Wait, this is too dangerous. Too close, my arm. His eyes involuntarily glanced at the huge breasts touching his arm. The big thing of Hae was touching him. Hae smiled teasingly when she saw the other person's expression. Why are you turning your face away? I can't guess anything like this. She teased him. Wait, let me. Hae suddenly stopped and looked down. She seemed a bit lost in thought. Then her face flushed red, and she suddenly stood up. Ah, right. I forgot about this. My uncle must have arrived. I'll go downstairs to check. Saying that, Hae jumped up and walked faster. Suddenly she stopped again, making Yeo Un curious. Hae spoke shyly, but just now, I realized one thing clearly. Her face blushed even more. Yeo Un is truly a very sincere person. Yoon sat there a bit confused. What do you mean? His eyes were a little embarrassed. What is it? Then, as if realizing something, his face suddenly stiffened. Yoon glanced down and exclaimed, oh no! He shouted loudly and covered his lower part with his hands. He was wearing wide pants. If I react, it will be obvious. Oh my god, save me! Outside, after leaving Yoon's room, her face was still red. She thought, we only held hands a little, but he reacted so strongly. Hae-in exclaimed, really impressive. In many different ways, on the street, a car was speeding. Yoon's face was still red. Hae-yoon's face was not much better. Hyun-sung, sitting in the driver's seat, teased, "Why are you two so quiet? Are you fighting again?" Hae-un turned her face away, avoiding. She immediately denied, "No, not at all. Just a few things." Then she asked, "By the way, whose car is this?" Hyun-sung smiled, "It's Dong Cheon's. He manages a bar nearby, so he often stays overnight." Hae-in asked, "Oh, he was the bassist before, right?" Hyun-sung replied, "Yes." Hae-in continued, "This car is also convenient for carrying stuff. Hey uncle, just borrow it." The uncle was a bit puzzled. "Going to Rockfest? No, just rent a car." Hae-in seemed unconcerned. "Rent? Just pay and borrow from Jong Cheon Appa." The uncle seemed uninterested. "Too much trouble. Have to worry about insurance too." Hyun-sung turned to Yeo Un, "You're Hae-in's friend, right?" He was a bit embarrassed. "Ah, yes." Hyun-sung continued, "Do you have any plans for this summer?" Yeo Un looked a bit questioning. "Not yet." The uncle quickly suggested, "Then come to Rock Festival with us. I have free tickets for 3 people. Yeo Un was a bit confused. "What is Rock Festival?" Hae-in suddenly spoke up. "A rock music festival. Artists from many countries perform for 3 days and 2 nights. We can camp nearby, drink, and have fun freely." She said it as if it was obvious. "My uncle also works as staff there, so I go along to help and have fun. If you want to go, just let me know." Yoon's expression was a bit blank. Suddenly, Hyun-sung burst out laughing. "Let's start with Kasabi's song." Hae-in next to him shouted loudly, "What? We have to start with the Korean band Shim Kagan?" Both started arguing again. "We went last year and got bored." Hae-in refused to lose. "Uncle, I'm also tired of Kasabi. Listen to Green Sunset." Then they agreed. "That's good." Yoon sat in the car watching them helplessly. He began to think, I probably won't have much free time this year because I have to find a job. But Yoon looked intently at Hae-in and still didn't want to go to the summer festival. In the cafe, Yoon came in from outside. "Your boss is here," Oh-yu said happily. "Hello, Yoon." Yoon smiled teasingly. "Did you get home safely last night?" Yoon was a bit evasive, yes. In his mind, he was panicking. Damn, trouble is coming. He went into the staff room, then came out and headed to the bar counter. Oh-yu brought out a glass of water and said, "Here, drink this." Yeon looked a bit confused, staring at the other person. "But isn't this break time? What's going on?" Seeing that, the boss immediately burst out laughing. "This is a new recipe I just experimented with. Try it and give me your opinion." Her eyes were full of teasing, and she took the opportunity to ask everything. "What happened between you and her after meeting me yesterday?" "I helped, so I have the right to know," Yeon said, a bit embarrassed. "That was just a normal reconciliation, nothing special." Shin-yeon laughed mockingly from behind. "Who just has a normal reconciliation? There must have been some argument, some sparks." Yeon quickly stepped back a few steps. "I already went home." "Why?" Shin-yeon laughed teasingly. "Yeah, I'm waiting to hear the rest of the story." Yeon was annoyed and blushed, then shouted loudly, "Go back for me. What's there to tell?" Shin-yeon started turning away, laughing loudly. "But I already heard quite a lot." Then she turned back, looking unconcerned. "So from now on, don't hold hands carelessly. People will misunderstand. Got it?" Shin-yeon looked at him silently. "Did you hear me again or not?" Yeon said once more. Shin-yeon, seeming indifferent, replied briefly, Yeah, I know." Yeon seemed a bit unsettled and was about to call her back when Shin-young suddenly stopped and exclaimed, "Oh, right," looking embarrassed. "Jeon-yu Appa, I received an order before the shift ended but haven't processed it yet. Please help me." Yeon panicked and raised his voice. "What? Why didn't you say earlier?" Shin-young seemed to want to avoid it and ran away, only leaving the words, "Sorry, see you tomorrow, Appa." Yeon stayed at the shop, a bit annoyed. Honestly, after making the drinks, he loudly announced to the customers at table 21, "Here are your 4 drinks." He was a bit embarrassed. "Sorry for the wait, I'll give you some extra cookies." The female customer didn't mind and replied, "Thank you." Then Yeon exhaled, thinking it was handled smoothly. Almost got a complaint when a voice suddenly rang out, making him stunned. "Hey, run! Take this." Then Yeon turned around and looked toward where the voice came from. A short distance from where he stood, a girl with blonde hair blowing in the wind smiled lightly. Then she walked out with her friend. Yeon watched their backs and clenched his fists, muttering in anger. Hanarun Oyudu seemed to sense something was wrong and quickly asked, "What's wrong? Did someone say something bad to you?" Feeling his emotions were a bit much, he restrained himself and answered, Nothing. I just passed by because the name sounded familiar." After hearing that, he sighed in relief and said, "Oh, I thought it was something serious. I'm going to the restroom, tell me later." He stood there, quite embarrassed. "Okay." Then a flash of light flickered in his eyes. Thinking back, whether it was a run or not didn't matter. "I let go long ago. It's just that the familiar name made me look back reflexively. Nothing more, nothing less. Just old memories resurfacing made me instinctively turn around. But that person means nothing to me now, really." Yeon was so lost in thought that he didn't notice a customer arriving. "Sorry, I want to order," the customer urged, surprising him with a louder voice. Yes, a few days later, at the subway waiting area, there were only a few people around. Yeon sat down on a nearby bench, sighed deeply. Work's done for today. He started making plans in his head on the way home. Should I stop by the night market to buy some food? There's nothing left to eat tomorrow morning. He started calculating mentally. Even the toilet paper is out. I have to buy shampoo and detergent too. Then Yeon yawned. Whatever, I'll go to the store and decide later. I just want to rest now. Not sure if it's because I've been busy lately or worried about the internship. There are a few other reasons why I've been feeling so tired recently. His eyes seemed unable to stay open, and he nodded off. Eon had dozed off on the bench for a while. Next to him was another person, the blonde girl. Eon suddenly spoke. Sis, why did you sneak out of the freshman welcome party? You disappeared suddenly. Everyone was looking for you. Vun just smiled self-mockingly. I just don't like noisy places. Meaningless, socializing also annoys me. He quickly interrupted. But you should make friends. Exchange phone numbers, for example. Vun was a bit puzzled. Why? Otherwise, you'll always be lonely, eating alone. Run quickly, glanced sharply at him. So what? Then can you stay with me? She suddenly made an offer that made Yoon unable to hide her shock. His expression became more bewildered. Yoon looked towards him, trembling as if carefully observing her. Then the other person handed a cigarette to Cho and asked if he wanted to smoke. Eon looked at the small hands that were handing him a cigarette and was stunned. Then he reached out and grabbed it. At this moment, Hain was vigorously patting Eon's shoulder, startling Cho awake. He suddenly woke up and shouted, What? What is it? Wait, what? Hain was a bit confused by his reaction. Hurriedly asked, Did you fall asleep? Eon blinked and stammered. Ah, yes, probably. I just intended to close my eyes for a bit but accidentally dozed off, he said, then looked away, thinking to himself, Ah, what was that dream? Why did I suddenly dream about the past while sitting next to her, Hain? Feeling worried. I didn't do anything wrong. And Eon started to smile awkwardly, then changed the subject. Oh right, Hein, do you want to see this? Then he took out his phone to show her. This is the international music app I've been using lately. On the homepage, Long Afternoon was featured. Hain sitting beside him was a bit surprised. Really? Tell me more. Yeah, in the international indie music playlist. Long Afternoon was selected right away. I even took a screenshot in case it disappears, he said with a bright smile looking at her. It seems people are finally starting to recognize Long Afternoon's potential. Hopefully their popularity will increase. At this moment, he noticed Hyeon's admiring gaze. Eon was a bit embarrassed. What's wrong? Do I have something on my face? Hyeon just smiled lightly and said, No, nothing. I'm just looking at your expression. Eon looked happiest when talking about Long Afternoon. Eon was also a bit surprised and smiled awkwardly. Well, that's because I really like Long Afternoon. Hein suddenly asked, Hey, Yeo Un, you usually carry your phone with you, right? He looked a bit confused. Huh? Phone? Hein quickly explained. People who live alone should always carry their phone, even into the bathroom. You never know when you might get stuck. Yeo Un nodded as if he understood. Oh really? That sounds scary. Hein was a bit cheerful, teasing her younger brother. So don't forget to always carry it. Yeo Un scratched his head and stammered. Ah, okay. He thought to himself, why did she suddenly bring up the phone? Could it be she heard some news? Yeo Un glanced at her thoughtfully. At that moment, a notification echoed throughout the station. The next train was arriving at the station. After returning to his room, Eon took a long shower, then hugged his pile of stuff and stepped outside. He was feeling very relaxed after a tiring day. Then he went to the fridge and started storing food. It had been a long time since he properly filled the fridge. He searched for necessary items in his hands, then continued putting beer cans into the fridge. Yeo Un kept thinking about that girl, wondering if Hain would come to his house again so they could drink together. He looked at the beer can for a while, seemingly thinking of something. Then an idea popped into his head and his eyes lit up. He suddenly realized, wait, when Hain asked if I brought my phone, it was because she wanted to exchange phone numbers? He felt like he had just realized something he had never thought of before. Yeo Un held his head, silently cursing himself. What an idiot. Why did I only realize this now? He held his head in regret. Next time we meet, I must ask for her number first. Suddenly, Yeo Un was stunned and exclaimed while looking at his phone. Wait, what is this? What is this? It was a live stream of Long Afternoon. Yeo Un sat down on a nearby chair. What? They suddenly live streamed? They've never spoken before and never shown real-life images. His eyes seemed to focus entirely on it. And now they were performing live? Ion had no idea that Hain was the owner of that live stream. At the practice room, Hain was secretly practicing singing. The music echoed throughout the room. Even Hyunji and Jihoon were there, and another member was Yoonji Young, 20 years old, music application major, drummer, member of the band Long Afternoon. Hain's eyes contained sadness mixed with a passion for music. Her voice suddenly rose high and she began to break the guitar strings fiercely. After a long practice session, Hein stopped and spoke to the other members. All right, let's end practice here for today. Jihoon agreed with this idea and replied, Okay, during the recording, we'll keep this role, right? Yes. Juyin, sitting by the drums, had a bit of a question and asked, when will we rehearse with Sung Hyun Jae? As soon as his name was mentioned, he spoke up, saying we will have a full rehearsal at the studio the day before filming. Even though he's a star, the song isn't difficult, and hearing those words made Juyin quite excited. His voice grew louder. Yes, I know already. Then Hyun. Ji looked over at the two people talking. Jihoon said he would leave the pedal board here today. Hae-in casually replied, Okay. At this moment, Hyun-ji spoke up. He approached Hae-in, making her a bit surprised. He asked cautiously, Why did you suddenly decide to do a live version? When we started the long afternoon, you said you wouldn't do any live versions. Hyunsek tried to explain to the other party. I mean, as long as the schedule doesn't overlap, I don't mind whether there's a live performance or not. But he still wanted to know the reason. Hae-in was a bit shy at this point. She shifted her gaze and stammered, "Ah, that matter." Hae-in thought back to the scene the night before in the music room. She was playing a segment of the song on the computer screen. Both Harin and Hyunjae were very excited about this song. The excitement was clear on her face. Harin's voice was full of excitement after hearing it. "It's amazing. Sounds completely different from the version I heard last time. I really like it." Hyunjae also laughed out loud. "I knew you'd like it," he said. "I took it to mix and master at another studio. Our studio mainly works with the genre I usually do, so it has its limitations. That's why I sent the song to a studio specializing in rock music, using your own songs as reference material, and they sent back this product in just one day." Hae-in was a bit surprised. Her voice was full of disbelief. "So that's it. My music was used as reference material. The song sounds exactly like what I imagined." She continued to ask, "When will the song be released?" Hyunji replied, "End of June or early July. When there's an album cover, we'll finalize the exact date." Hae-in asked again, "Who will do the album cover?" He said, "Our label's digital artist will draw a really beautiful one, along with Uki." Hearing who would do the cover for the group, Hae-in felt very excited. Hyunjae's gaze grew deeper. He gave a slight smile, looked at her, then suddenly stood up. "Oh, let's talk about something else, Hae-in." Hyunjae made a proposal. "Do you want to try performing live with us?" Hae-in was a bit surprised by the offer. "Live performance? You mean the live clip shoot you mentioned before?" Hyunjae then pulled out a folder of documents. He replied, "Yes, I've thought of some ideas about the image." Hyunjae was a bit excited. "Look at this." He showed the documents to the other party. "This is an Icelandic band called Jose of Victory. They hang a thin curtain in front of the stage and project images on it to open." Hae-in looked at the image and was very excited. "Oh, I know this band. I really like them." Hyunjae smiled too. "I knew you'd know them. Anyway, they also play post-rock," he continued. "I think you can do something similar, Hae-in. Just stand behind the curtain during the live performance. That way, the audience will only see your shadow, not your face, like the Roses of Victory." "Right. The backlight will project your shadow on the curtain." Hae-in pondered and examined the paper, then looked up, stammering, "But wouldn't this be more expensive than producing a regular live clip?" Hae-in was a bit puzzled. "Why do we have to go to such lengths? This isn't even Sung Hyunjae's official album." He heard those words and smiled lightly, calmly. "Well, you know, this song is so good that I want to invest more in it. And above all," Hyunjae said confidently, "I think the fans will really like it." That statement startled Hae-in. He continued, "When performing, you can clearly feel the fans, the faces and cheers of my music lovers, the raw emotions of those who adore Sung Hyunjae. When I come out of that immersive moment, on one hand I feel excited, but also very humble." Hyunjae's voice was a bit sad. "I don't want to disappoint their expectations again." Hae-in's eyes lit up with surprise. Upon hearing his confession, Hyunjae suddenly laughed. "So I'm trying my best. Sounds a bit cheesy, right? Music only exists when there is someone listening." He raised his index finger. "Of course, I also hope this song will make a lot of money." Hae-in smiled at this moment. Money is important after all. Hyunjae put the paper back into his bag and said, "No matter what, if you participate, please let me know before the weekend." "Sure." Hae-in sat up straight and replied yes. She looked at the other person, thinking he was sincere. Hyunji. Turns out he really cares about his fans. I thought he was just someone who worked hard on music because he never interacted on social media. On the other side, Hyunji continued, "There's still time. How about going for a coffee for a bit?" Hae-in's eyes suddenly darkened, full of sorrow. Hyunji's voice still lingered around her. "Because I think the fans will like that phrase." She suddenly thought of that person, even though I've never performed live before. Yoon's smile appeared in her mind, but I think I somewhat understand his meaning. Hae-in suddenly paused, then spoke up. "I will do it," Hae-in said with certainty. "I will help you make the live video you mentioned, Hyunji. But I want to add a little bit of my own mark to the idea you proposed," she said with firm determination. Then Hae-in cautiously asked again to be sure, "Is that okay?" Hyunji became a bit excited and replied, "Of course, I will arrange the schedule and send it to you." Hae-in happily responded, "Okay." Then they continued walking and discussing the plan. Hyunji suddenly realized, "So that's how it is. So Hyunji convinced you, huh?" Hae-in standing beside him smiled happily and said, "Yes, yes. Seeing him put so much effort into planning that idea, I also want to try." The voice beside her became even softer. "So that's how it is." Hae-in was a bit confused, standing behind. "Huh? What did you say?" Hyunjae suddenly spoke up to explain, "Nothing. I was just talking to myself." Then he turned to her and asked, "Are you okay? This will be your first live performance, right? Even if it's a live without an audience, you'll definitely be nervous because the whole filming crew will be watching you. If you keep messing up, you'll become a burden to everyone, so at least you have to practice beforehand." The harsh words surprised Hae-in quite a bit. At this moment, the streetlights had been turned on below the subway stairs. Hae-in walked while thinking, "I haven't even considered that this is my first live performance. The time at middle school was just a talent show." She pondered, What should I do now? Next 2 practice sessions, I'll try to pull Elun to sit in front and see how it goes. After a few steps, she suddenly saw Elun sleeping there. Elun was dozing off there. She gently stepped beside him. He's asleep. What now? Or should I just let him sleep until the train arrives? Hae-in was a bit confused. I can't leave him like this or he'll catch a cold. Let's wake him up. Then she went over, sat down, and patted his shoulder. Elun was startled. Huh? Sorry, what? His voice was so loud it echoed throughout the area. Hae-in was a bit startled and worried by his tone. Did you fall asleep? Elun felt a bit guilty and said, yeah, probably. I just intended to close my eyes for a bit. Then he chuckled a few times. His laugh carried a hint of embarrassment. Hae-in looked at him with some worry, thinking finding a job must be tough. I've never looked for a job myself, so I'm not sure either. Her gaze toward him softened even more. Hae-in thought silently, I hope I can help somehow. Elun muttered, this is a foreign music app I often listen to. She suddenly thought of that phrase, sent to the person who cares. Long afternoon, Hae-in's eyes showed surprise. She suddenly asked, huh? Elun, do you usually carry your phone with you? He just put his phone away. Then he wondered about her question. Huh? Phone? What? Hae-in asked. I heard that people living alone should even bring their phone into the bathroom. I heard you might get stuck in there. Elun looked a bit embarrassed. Really? Sounds scary. Hae-in's smile became even more charming. So don't forget to always carry it with you, okay? Her tone was full of implication. At that moment, at Elun's place, he held his phone and looked at the live room for a while, thinking. Still, not many people have joined. Seems like most are foreigners, probably because it's midnight. Even so, this is the first live in the history of Long Afternoon. Amazing. I can't believe my eyes. He looked at the 82 viewers in the live, even though all he saw on the screen was the outside scene. On the other side, Hae was turning on the live. She hugged the guitar, sitting there mentally preparing herself. Hae-in was slightly trembling. This place was soundproof, but since it was nighttime, I should just sing softly, so I'll just play the ukulele a little bit. She pondered for a moment. Yeo Un must be watching, right? I don't know his ID, so I can't check, but I'm sure he's watching. He definitely is. She used her hand to gently pluck the guitar strings, truly listening to a long afternoon. Suddenly, Hae-in began to sing. That melodious voice deeply moved Yeo Un on the other side. A harmonious image appeared, as if beside him was the presence of that beautiful girl. Night had fallen, everywhere lit up by tiny lights. Traffic was sparse on the roads at this hour. In a certain apartment building, only a few rooms still had their lights on. At this moment, the guitar's clear, ringing sound filled the room. Hae-in seemed immersed in the song. You are the daytime sky, cold and harsh, the star that colors the night, a lonely breath drifting among thousands of stars. You are the star that colors the night, your orbit faint and lost. I drift along with you, because there you are, like a passing season, just following inertia. Hae was singing Dark Planet by Midnight VR. Her voice continued to rise. Yet in the deepest memory, I find you. I see you've always been there. Eon sat attentively listening to that voice, gazing at the memories he left behind, resonating in each unique emotion between them. Beyond the first flash of light, we shared a miraculous rhythm of vibration. The sound of the song was like a breeze, echoing across the sky in the dark night. Beyond the first flash of light, we exist because of those vibrations, repeating endlessly. Eon listened to that voice every second, every minute, his heart pounding, shy and blushing. After finishing the song, Hae-in was silent. At that moment, the phone screen displayed the words, "Thank you for watching." Hae-in had gone live on Instagram and sang for everyone. Yeo Un scratched his head, confused. What? Just one song and then done? That's too short. I want to hear more. Immediately after, he felt heartbroken and regretful. What a pity. I should have recorded the screen. The replay of the live stream isn't available yet. Frustrated, Yeo Un lowered his gaze, looking sad and discouraged. Sitting on the chair, he thought, why did she suddenly go live at this hour? Could this also be some kind of teaser? Or is she just bored, he wondered. I don't know either, but thinking about the song. Yeo Un seemed to have found his true love. His eyes sparkled, and his smile was full of happiness and passion. He gradually became overly excited, joyfully jumping around. Truly, the best of the best. Long Afternoon was born for live streams like this. Even with just a ukulele and singing alone, it was still top-notch, roof-shattering. Moreover, it wasn't even AI anymore. Ion looked satisfied, lying back comfortably on the mattress. He raised his hand high, holding his phone to watch the live stream again, then wondered. I wonder if Hae-in watched this live stream. Then he lowered the phone, hugged it tightly, smiling contentedly. Hopefully she didn't miss it. That way we'll have more to talk about. And also, this joy is too big to keep to myself. Yeo Un happily immersed himself in the feeling. Somewhere else in the room bathed in dim yellow light. Hae-in drooped, burying her face in the pillow, shy to the point of blushing. She hugged the pillow tightly, rolling back and forth, unable to hide her embarrassment. Thinking, what the heck did I just do? So embarrassing. The pitch and rhythm were all wrong. Truly a mess. Hae-in blushed, reflecting that singing in front of strangers really made her nervous. She wondered if other musicians had ever experienced this. Was their first time also this shaky? Then Hae-in relaxed, lying on the bed, shyly touching her head. She held her phone, unable to stop thinking about what just happened. Her voice couldn't even come out properly, and she couldn't sing as she had imagined. But Hae-in sincerely wished to send thanks to all the AI who watched her live stream, hoping it would become a beautiful memory, and also to Yeo Un, hoping it was a comfortable first time for him. Hae-in's face was a bit shy from embarrassment, but looked very sweet and lovely. On another evening, it was late. The subway station was quiet and empty. Yeo Un happily hummed as he walked, thinking to himself, I wonder if I'll see Hae-in again today. If I do, the fan explosion inside me won't be able to be contained. He met Ion, and thought that if he met her today, he would definitely try to get her contact information. He imagined that way, so even at home he could still talk about long afternoon or music with her, whenever he wanted. Lost in his imagination, he suddenly was startled by a shout. Behind him was Hae-in, panicked, shouting, Oh, when did you stand behind me? Hae-in chuckled happily since they entered the GA gate, cheerfully starting the conversation. Did you sleep well last night? You look really tired. Last night? Oh, Miss Hae? Hey, did you miss Long Afternoon's live show? Hae looked confused, not understanding, asking, Long Afternoon live? Was there a live? Ion immediately replied, Yes, she live-streamed on Insta with the song Planet. Hae-in pretended to regret, Oh no, I went to bed early and missed it. He seemed a bit disappointed. That's really a pity. At their seats, Hae-in gently asked Ion how the live was, and upon hearing that, he looked thoughtful, then smiled a bit strangely and casually gave his opinion. It was weird, seeing you like that. Hae-in was stunned. Yeo Un laughed sarcastically, criticizing the phone mic quality as poor, and the music was too quiet. She was truly shocked by him. Hae-in felt a bit hurt inside, awkwardly smiling. Oh really? So you think it was weird? But then Ion softened his tone and seriously praised. But it was very good, he sincerely commented, feeling like a friend suddenly calling in the middle of the night to sing for me, so it was more intimate and warm. And because it was nighttime, she sang very softly, unlike usual, as if she had wrapped all her heart into it, making the song even more special. Hae-in silently listened attentively, and Ion continued, Finally, I understand why people aren't satisfied with recordings and go out of their way to attend live shows. He laughed heartily. Please, I hope she will livestream again. Seeing him give such fair comments, Hae-in felt comforted. She turned her face down lightly, as if pondering something, shyly clutching her skirt, whispering, Me too, I hope so. Ion then changed the subject excitedly. Hey, Miss Hae-in, by the way, how about we exchange contact info? Ion pulled out his phone from his pocket, his eyes full of meaning, suggesting he explain, so next time Long Afternoon live streams on Insta, I can let you know, and sometimes we can chat about music. Hearing this, Hae-in hesitated, mumbling awkwardly. She pondered and replied, I can give you my number, but can I say one thing first? No calls or texts. Hae-in looked at him with an awkward smile, a bit worried. That kind of scares me a little. Hearing that, he became anxious, thinking, Why? Phone phobia? She nervously explained, If I can't see the other person's face, I get worried, so I only use my phone for work, or to call my parents. Hae-in's eyes darkened, as if carrying many unspeakable worries, recalling the difficult times before she started singing and posting online. Hae-in was attacked by nasty comments about herself, which for a growing girl like her, was truly shocking and traumatizing. Hae-in was lost in thought, especially messages that made her even more scared. Ion sat silently beside her, watching, perhaps sensing that Hae-in really had her own troubles. He tactfully suggested, So just text me goodnight then? She looked confused, asking again, Good night text? Ion continued, I always worry if Miss Hae-in gets home safely. Since we always meet late at night, his suggestion made sense. Hae-in hesitated but agreed. Okay then, sometimes I worry if Mr. Yoon gets home safely too. And so the two exchanged phone numbers. It was still evening as usual at Hae-in's apartment. She had returned safely and was drinking water because she was thirsty. After quenching her thirst, Hae-in thought about her upcoming plan for next week. The combined live recording would end, so she could focus on Long Afternoon. She still had a pile of new demo songs waiting. Thinking that, Hae-in glanced down at her phone charging on the table, smiled, then wondered if Yeo Un had messaged her. Probably he got home before her. Hae-in lay face down on the bed, comfortably scrolling through her phone. While watching, suddenly shouted as if finding something. Here it is. This is the message Yeo Un sent to her, along with a photo as the first greeting. Are you home safe? Hae looked at the photo, then smiled awkwardly, changed her lying position and wondered, what is this? Why did he send a selfie like this, saying he did it right away? She immediately sent a message asking Yeo Un back. Why did he send a photo too? Kia quickly replied. Because you said you felt uneasy when you couldn't see the other person's face. Kia read this and Hae seemed moved by the thoughtfulness, noticing even the things she worried about. Then Hae rolled over hugging a pillow, laughing loudly because she liked it. Aha, so he sent a selfie for that reason. I didn't mean that. Funny to death. Haha, laughing, but just laughing. Hae really felt very happy and satisfied because she carefully looked at the photo he sent. His selfie skills were really bad. Kia on the other side, Iyun hallway was always lit. He wiped his hair with one hand, holding the phone. Eyes focused without leaving the screen was Yeo Un. She sent him back a super beautiful and cute photo, along with the message, "I feel the same. Good night, Un." Eon seemed caught in the love net, just standing staring at Yeo Un. But his mouth kept exclaiming, "So pretty." The more he looked, the more he saw she was really pretty. Yeo Un covered her mouth, shyly blushing, her eyes sparkling brightly. Then he wished her good night. Hye-in then quickly saved the photo to his phone. Hye-in looked at Yeo Un's photo on the phone screen. She stood silently for a moment, admiring him. Hye-in's eyes, worried and gentle, filled with many feelings. She thought to herself, looking again and again, still saw he took a bad selfie. With this photography skill, surely anything he takes will turn out ugly. Hye-in was convinced, planning. Next time we meet, I have to teach him how to take selfies properly. After he learns, then, he must send me a decent one. Suddenly, Ji-hun called loudly from behind, making her startled. "Hey, hey," in panicked because surprised. Oh, he smiled awkwardly. "Why do I always startle you like that?" she explained. "Because you keep sneaking behind me like a suspicious person," he muttered. "I didn't do anything." Then Ji-hun pointed behind himself. "Let's go inside." Hyun-jae said the equipment has been fully set up. Hye-in replied, "Yes, sir." While walking, Ji-hun turned to look at her with a questioning tone. "Why did you bring so many things? Are you bringing stuff to film or what?" Hye-in enthusiastically replied, "Yes." Kind of like that. Both Hyun-ji and Ji-hun were walking, but seeing her like that, they were a bit confused as a judgment. At the filming location, everyone was busy preparing. Yes, at this time, Hyun-jae was standing chatting with a woman wearing glasses, brown hair chatting, then Hye-in also came to greet everyone. He smiled gently and replied, "Oh, you're here." Hyun-jae smiled happily and announced the instruments have been set up and ready. "We will check the sound right now." Hye-in excitedly said, "Yes, yes." He warmly pointed towards her and introduced, "This is director Yeo Un, the one who prepared today's stage. Greet her." Hye-in politely bowed. "Hello, sister. Looking forward to working together." Seeing that Ina also awkwardly bowed back. "Yes, hello." Then she silently evaluated a joker who bowed 90 degrees. Hyun-jae, standing next to her, quickly whispered to make a good impression on Ina. She is a true genius in the media field, making her a bit embarrassed and shy because of his introduction for her. Ina replied, "Genius my ass, don't say nonsense. Are you trying to bargain the filming fee?" Hye-in was about to leave, then Ina called back. "Oh, right before starting, I need to confirm something with Long Afternoon. You said absolutely no face reveal in the video, right?" Hye-in forced a smile and answered, "Yes, that is the group's concept. Especially your face. Please make sure your face is not revealed." Ina pondered with a serious face. "Got it, I will ensure that." Then she gently looked up at her, thinking to herself, "What a pity. You shouldn't judge an artist by appearance, but honestly she looks very good. I feel if she's on screen it will be wonderful." Ina silently observed her. The stage only projected shadows, which was already very cool with the edited clips. But since this is a live performance, if the face is revealed, it will be even cooler. Too bad. While focusing on evaluating, Heron suddenly spoke, making her startled. Sorry sister, may I ask something?" Ina was embarrassed. "What's up? What is it?" Heron shyly smiled, raising a bag, asking if she could use this today. Ina bent down, her face a bit serious, suggested, let me see it, as long as it doesn't reflect too much light like being surprised by that item." Ina's eyes lit up brightly. "Is this it?" Looking at Hye-in smiling shyly while wearing the handmade hat on her head. Yes, Ji-hun came from somewhere close by, slightly confused by that fake hat, asked what it was. "Did you make it yourself?" She smiled shyly. "I made it bit by bit while working." She attached some fake leaves onto a baseball cap. Although a bit shy, Hye-in still didn't hesitate to explain. "The song is called Ecosystem, right? So I thought of doing it this way. Maybe it would feel like nature itself is singing." Looking at her like that, Ina was a bit embarrassed, speechless. Ji-hun teased a little. "Good idea, but the quality looks a bit poor, huh?" Hye-in smiled awkwardly. "It looks pretty silly, right?" Ji-hun said. "Even if I can draw well, making costumes is still the expert's domain," she replied in a low voice. "I thought so too. I made it and just brought it along, but maybe I shouldn't use it suddenly." Ina, standing nearby, said, "Just try it and see." The two were a bit surprised. She quickly explained that the quality of this prop was a bit lacking, but since only the shadow would show, it probably wouldn't be a problem. "I'll turn on the light behind the curtain. You stand there." Hye-in obediently listened. "Okay, yes." Then Hyun-jae gently approached where Ina was sitting and softly asked, "How do you feel, Ina? Does that prop look okay?" She calmly replied, "No, the quality is only comparable to those birthday hats for kids. But since it was requested, we'll just try it and see." Ina suddenly became quiet. Actually, it wasn't just that. She recalled memories from before making a prop that wasn't cute enough. The confusion of an artist trying to create something new. At least we have to try once, right? Ina pushed up her glasses with a very serious expression. Of course, if the result isn't good, it's just a butterfly. It's in the storm. Thinking that way, she looked up at Hyun-jae. "Even so, you should still watch. Your opinion might actually be better." He just replied, "Got it." At this moment on the set, they started strumming the guitar. Although the hat was considered low quality, the aura still made her look very cool wearing it. That impressed Ina. They were all drawn by the music and looked at her. Everyone was working. and because of the music, they paid attention. Looking at Yeo Un, she seemed a bit cold but very captivating. Her eyes held intense passion. Still, we kept trying. She started singing, rooted through the gaps of sunlight, 100 winters, 1,000 summers, reaching the climax, the eternal story written by you and me. Shining through the wild waves, Ina watched attentively. Her singing continued, because you and I belong to another world. Yeo Un finished the song magnificently. This really surprised Ina, as if touching the deepest part of her heart. Her eyes widened, sparkling. Hyunsung, standing beside, also showed a very proud and satisfied expression. He placed his hand on Ina's shoulder happily and asked, "I think it looks okay. What about you?" Ina coldly remarked, "It's just a shadow, so it looks nothing special." Then she stood up and left Hyunjae standing there. "I'm going outside to smoke. You two check the sound, okay?" Looking at her like that, Hyunjae just smiled softly, gently looking at her. Outside, Ina was quietly sitting on the ground alone. She was thoughtful and silent, smoking. It turned out she was so shocked she was speechless, going outside to express everything herself. She focused on her phone. "What? That band is called Long Afternoon?" "Yes, Long Afternoon." Looking at their post on Insta, Ina was amazed, loudly exclaimed, "Their Instagram only has a few drawings, and I just liked all of them. Hurry up and release the first album. Not releasing an album is a dictatorship over listeners. It's a curse on fans." Ina shouted loudly, "It's been so long since I felt like this." Her face flushed red. That feeling of being captivated by an artist from the first moment of meeting, like going back to middle school. When first watching a new wave film, despite no money and difficulties, Ina excitedly listened to the song. This is exactly why we do art. The thrill of creating something new and the excitement of discovering a new talented artist. They will be precious artistic talents. At this moment at the cafe, everyone was focused on their own tasks in the warehouse of the cafe. Yeo Un was sitting, nibbling on a piece of cake. While scrolling through his phone, he seemed to be deep in thought for a long time because of what was on the screen. It turned out Yeo Un was admiring a photo of Yeo Un. Unable to hold back, he exclaimed how beautiful she was. He sat attentively, resting his head on his hand, smiling like a lovesick fool, thinking that Yeo Un was really photogenic, maybe because of her small face. He already knew she was attractive, but seeing her in these photos made him feel like he could look at them forever. He wished he had millions of photos like these. Deeply immersed in his thoughts, OU gently came out to remind him that the break time was over. He just replied, "Ah, yes ma'am," she said. "I'll check the warehouse here. You go watch the counter for me, okay?" He replied, "Yes, please take your time." Yeo Un walked out slowly, his mind constantly thinking, hoping he would get to see Yeo Un again so he could ask to take another photo. Just as he reached the counter, a customer appeared. "Can I order, please?" "Yes, sir. Will you be dining in?" "Yes, 1 Earl Grey tea and 1 chocolate cake." "Hot drinks, right?" "Yes, that's right. I'll notify you with the buzzer when it's ready." "Okay." Yeo Un returned to focus on his work. Suddenly, a voice sounded, probably the next customer. "I'd like to order too." Seeing this, he cheerfully responded, "Will you dine in or take out?" Before he could finish, Yeo Un froze, suddenly realizing the customer in front of him was a woman who looked satisfied and smiled brightly at him. "Ah, I knew it was you. Last time you came here, you were really something. Ha ha." Yeo Un was struck like lightning. His face turned pale, sweating, confused, and a bit scared, unable to speak. "What? That girl?" Yeo Un slowly recalled her, remembering the smoke from the cigarette in her hand. She was Run. Yeo Un anxiously asked, "Why are you here?" Run looked confident and smiled gently at him. Standing at the cash register, Yeo Un was surprised to see Run and awkwardly asked, "What? Why are you here? Aren't you working at GA Company?" Hearing that, she calmly explained, "I just transferred companies recently. The company is right here, in the building next to Mr.'s store." Run placed a hand on the counter with interest. "When did you start working here? How long has it been? When did you go back to school?" Hearing her continuous questions, Yeo Un remained silent and somewhat wary, not answering her questions. He just lowered his head awkwardly. "Please, just order. I'm not allowed to chat during work." Being rejected like that, Run was a little surprised but still kept a cold attitude. "Really?" Even though they hadn't met for a long time, she regained her cheerful attitude as before. "Well then. Anyway, today I just came to see you. What's the best dish here? Suggest something for me." Seeing her attitude, Yeo Un was a bit annoyed. Slightly irritated, he reluctantly shouted out, "The raspberry strawberry yogurt here is the best, ma'am." Always smiling awkwardly. "That's the most expensive one. Are you trying to trick customers?" Yeo Un sighed helplessly. "Hurry and choose something. I still have to make drinks for other customers." Hearing him, Run just looked and smiled gently. She casually put her hand in her pocket and spoke calmly. "Then give me a hot chocolate. You still remember, right? My taste is like a kid's, so make it really sweet." "Got it," Yeo Un said while handing over the phone and scanner with a bored look. "What? I don't remember." Seeing that, she laughed loudly to hide her embarrassment. "Don't lie. You remember everything." Yeo Un turned his face away, denying, "No, I don't remember. We went to school together for many years, so now I've forgotten everything." Run continued, "But you still remember the company I used to work at before GA, right?" She was trying to deny everything but got caught right on the spot. This made him freeze. Ah, I slipped up. He put his hands in his pockets with a cold expression. Even if it only hurt you a little, being this cold is a bit sad, though his hands were still busy. But he couldn't hide the emptiness inside. Back then, we were both young, and now a long time has passed. Right? So let's just be like when we hung out, greet each other when we meet. Run still stood there, continuing to speak regardless of whether Yoon responded or not. If you don't do that, I might really cry. At this point, he showed a look of annoyance and slight irritation at the petty threat. His eyes couldn't hide the sadness. Helplessly, the last drink was finally ready. Customer number 24's hot chocolate was ready. Ayan forced a loud laugh and shouted thanks to her, wishing her a good meal. Looking at him like that, June just sighed and smiled. Then he laughed loudly again, asking, "What kind of face is that? Is Kia angry?" Yeo Un showed a frustrated expression. "Of course, I told you already. You can't talk privately while working," he said, his voice softening as he avoided her gaze. "Now that you've seen me, hurry up and leave. Other customers are watching, and the boss is right behind me too. Don't bother me anymore," he said slowly, sipping his hot chocolate silently while looking at him. She burst out laughing, unconsciously letting out a forced excuse. Eon was confused. "What?" She turned and left trembling. "It's nothing." "You said the hot chocolate was delicious," she said before stepping out the door, turning her head to look at Elun with a message. "So I'll come back again to drink the hot chocolate you make." Hearing this, Elun frowned. "Don't come." She raised her hand to say goodbye from afar. "See you later." Yeo Un's expression couldn't hide the annoyance and discomfort inside him, helplessly thinking, this is really frustrating. Why did she appear here? I thought I would never see her again in my life. Yeo Un was silent, thinking after being abandoned like that, he seemed to be immersed in memories of the past with June. The two stood facing each other under the pure white snow, recalling her shy and bashful demeanor at that time. That very moment made him feel moved. Lost in memories, Elun was so dazed he could barely stand, leaning on the edge of the table, awkwardly rubbing his head, then thinking, ah. It was so frustrating that her image kept appearing in his mind. He wished for 200 delivery orders to flood in right now. He silently wished that if he were extremely busy, he wouldn't have time to daydream anymore. One evening, inside the GA subway station, although the lights were bright, there was not a single person. Only he was there, looking dazed with messy hair, sighing as if lifeless, sitting slumped in a chair, thinking, they say words can become reality. I didn't expect the orders to come in so crazily afterward. So busy I thought I might die. He recalled working hard at that time without a single second to think about anything else. Maybe because it was the holiday season, there were many orders. Leaning back against the chair and wall, Yeo Un planned. Tonight I'll just take a quick shower and go to sleep. I'll get up early to do my homework. Suddenly, there was a clicking sound from a phone camera. He looked up involuntarily. Another click. It turned out to be Hae taking pictures. Yoon was confused. Miss Hae kept staring at the phone and taking pictures continuously. Eon shyly gave up her seat to Hae and awkwardly asked, "What are you doing? Why suddenly take pictures?" She turned and smiled. "Just because you look a little different today than usual, so I took a photo." She showed the newly taken photo on the phone. "Look here," he exclaimed. "Oh, Miss Hae, you really take good pictures." She extended her hand, asking, "Also, Eon, can I see your phone?" He awkwardly put his hand in his pocket, puzzled. "My phone is fine too, but what for?" Hae replied, "Just give it here for a moment." "There's something I want to show you," she said, smiling with delight. "Don't worry, I'll pretend." "I don't see any pretty girls saved in your photo library," he said, holding up his phone with a wary face, denying it. "I don't save those kinds of things in my photo library." Hae responded, "Oh, then can I have a look?" He hesitated. "Sorry." She burst out laughing. "What kind of face is that?" "Sorry." After getting Elun's phone, she looked excited. "What if I adjust your camera settings like this?" As soon as she finished speaking, Hae held the phone up high and took a picture with the rear camera, confusing Ellen. "Look over here," she said, adjusting the position and setting the camera to shoot by gesture using the rear camera. Catching on quickly, Elun quickly posed to take a photo. After shooting, she immediately showed him the picture. "This one looks great, right?" Ayan exclaimed, "Ah yes, it looks perfect." Hae smiled and reminded him, "From now on, when you send night photos, take them like this. The pictures will be much better." She scrolled through Elun's previous photos. "Don't take weird shots like last time anymore." He was surprised. "Huh? Were they really that weird?" She smiled awkwardly while looking at the photos. "Very weird. Look here, if your face is at the edge of the screen, the lens will distort it and make you look like a steamed bun. Also, the front camera quality is much worse than the rear camera." Ayan looked at the photo satisfied. "Oh, so that's it. So this is the secret." Behind the beautiful selfies of Miss Hae, his eyes sparkled with a bit of fluctuation, his face blushing. Then he turned to ask her, "If I take photos like this, do you think Miss Hae In would save them on her phone?" She didn't think much and immediately replied, "Of course. Anyway, it's still a memory." Seeing that, she immediately asked again, "Did you save the photos I sent you?" "You didn't save them?" Like being caught, I was flustered. "No, actually I already saved them." Hearing that, Hae In slightly bowed her head, letting her bangs fall down and cover part of her face. But she couldn't hide the look she gave him. Hae In laughed loudly, teasing, So you did save photos of the pretty girls, huh? Hearing her false accusation, he was confused. No, why would I do that? The night sky covered everywhere. At the small apartment where Yeo Un lived, he sent the photo he just took to Yeo Un for her opinion. How about today? She replied with a photo he took. That's good, much better than the other one. Yeo Un replied innocently to the message. Why did you make it look like a steamed bun? Yeo Un laughed and replied, it's my choice. Good night. One hand rested on his head, the other held the phone. He focused and smiled. It turned out he was looking at the photo from earlier of Yeo Un. The photo looked rushed but very captivating. Really cute. I should save this photo too, Yeo Un thought silently while holding the phone. At first it was just to make Yeo Un feel more secure, but now that they piled up, it's actually quite fun. His finger scrolled through the album on his phone. Later, looking back, these will be precious memories. While scrolling, he seemed to see something. He suddenly paused. It was an old photo he took with Jun. This photo made Yeo Un flustered as he sat up thinking. I thought I had saved and deleted all the old photos, but it seems some still remain in another folder. He looked at the photos on his phone and pondered for a long time, recalling the moments from earlier. When he met June again at the cafe, Yeo Un sat silently with a face full of emotions. Lost in thought, he then lay down with one hand behind his head. Actually, when I accidentally met Hana today, I was surprised but didn't feel anything else. Her indifferent gaze, her disappointed expression, turning away, I hated that deeply the moment I saw her face. After all the happy memories I had with her came flooding back, the two of them really had some good times together. Yeo Un's eyes didn't leave the phone screen. The past I wanted to forget invaded the present I wanted to cherish, with the smell of burnt cigarette and sweet hot chocolate disguised as beautiful memories. After a long moment of thought, Yeo Un also decided to delete the photo of him and June. I want to drink a little, recalling when he was still an active boy. Hello, I'm Yeo Un, 8 years old this year. My dream is to become an astronaut or an architect, like my dad. My favorite thing is the snacks my mom makes. Time started to pass. He grew up a bit. Hello, I'm Yeo Un. I live with my dad, just the two of us. My dream is, I once tried playing basketball because I'm 1.7 meters tall, but I think I don't have talent. I'm Yeo Un, 15 years old, a sophomore in high school. Day by day, he grew taller and handsome, but no longer had the energetic vibe he once had, instead becoming more reserved and introverted. Hello, I'm Yeo Un, 18 years old. My current goal is to get into a university in the capital area, and I'm preparing well for that. He smiled brightly, his face very radiant. Then suddenly Yeo Un got flustered by the question. Huh? My dream? My dream is just to get into a good company and earn a lot of money. My dad worked hard raising me alone. I want to become independent quickly so dad can rest. But I spoke a bit carelessly. He raised his hand to rub his head, smiling awkwardly. Please edit the part I just said. My dad worries a lot about the smallest things I say. Sometimes he nags at me. Like independence? What independence? Just live with dad. That's enough. Watching those video clips, Yeo Un hugged his backpack, dozing off, mumbling, so cool. Right after, he was startled awake. Wake up, Yeo Un. Wake up. The movie's over. He gently touched her, his eyes looking at her with a shy smile. You must have dozed off after staying up all night doing homework. Was the movie fun? Vun looked at him and smiled gently, replying, yes, super fun. Then she raised her hand to check the time. Huh? Isn't it almost time for our major class? Hearing that, Yeo Un panicked. What? Then what do we do now? She nervously reached out to him and smiled gently, asking, what do we do? What do we do? Without hesitation, she shouted loudly, we have to run. Both left the theater, no one left behind. All the lights were turned on. 2 people, one male and one female, holding hands, running and laughing under the streetlights shining down on the road. Run turned around and asked Yoon if he knew about a movie that had been filmed a long time ago. From when the actor was still a child until he grew up, it took 12 years to complete. Yes, I'm very surprised. 12 years just to film one movie. She replied, yes, it's about the life of a boy. Vun ran while speaking deeply. His life to him was boring. But she hoped that with AI, it would be like a film. He blushed after hearing those thoughts. Sensing her sincerity, Run suddenly pointed in a direction far away, making him startled and look along. Look, Aaron. She pointed at a bald man with glasses and, importantly, no hair. Standing right there shouting, bald teacher, he's picking his nose again. Haha, he always picks his nose. Then Run shifted direction to a car parked nearby and continued shouting. Look, the professor's car is covered in bird droppings. Haha, maybe the birds are stressed about exams. The two held hands tightly, running and laughing, looking very happy. Suddenly Ion saw a sumptuous dining table right in front. He wondered, there are some restaurant tables over there. Run saw this and immediately suggested, perfect timing. Want to have a snack before we go? Yeo Un hesitated. Eat? This place looks expensive, are you sure? She was certain. No problem, I'll pay. Looking at the luxurious dishes in front, the first dish we try is, not sure what flavor, but generally very expensive. Wow, I've never eaten anything like this before. Next, a collection of her favorite super cool movies. In front of the table were stacks of movie CDs. A movie about dinosaurs. Really surprising. She laughed and explained. She chose it because she liked the scenes where people die. He laughed loudly. What the heck is that? At this time, the luxurious food plates were left only with cigarette ashes, along with some scattered pills, and the last dish was cigarettes and cold medicine. This one is a bit bitter, I guess. Vun pretended to be a chef. Dear customer, is the dish to your taste? He chuckled, satisfied. Not sure what flavor it is, but generally it's delicious, she smiled happily. When I was little, my father was often busy, so I studied alone, but thanks to you, I got to see a whole new world. Removing the fake beard, she looked at him with a gentle, meaningful smile. So, I'm very happy. Then suddenly she held out a plate to him. Now it's time to pay the bill. Rowan was embarrassed about paying, but she said she would pay while carefully reading what was on the plate. His eyes lit up in amazement at the Hanjun-style payment method. If we bail on the plan and pretend nothing happened, it will be free. Suddenly it went completely dark. He held the paper. His body stiffened, face shocked. Yeo Un was a bit scared, turned around and shouted, "What? Why did the light suddenly go out? Everything seems to have disappeared." Yeo Un nervously kept shouting, Sister Hanjun, where did you go? Chef Hanjun, Sister Jun, where are you?" At this point, Yeo Un was truly scared, sweating nervously. "Say something, Hanjun." Finally, he gave up. No longer scared or shouting, just stood stunned. "Sister, why did you disappear and leave me?" Yeo Un was desperate. Feeling sad and full of despair, suddenly a light flashed behind him unexpectedly. Yeo Un turned around and saw behind him was Hae, in holding a balloon snail, walking toward him with an expressionless face. A strong gust of wind blew down. He carefully stood to block it, wondering, what the heck is that, an alien? No, it's Hae In. She continued to look at him with a beautiful, expressionless face. Hae In spoke, making him a bit stunned. "Are you going to just stand there forever? Hurry up and take my hand. Because soon this world will come to an end." Hae In held the balloon in one hand and reached out to him with the other. Everything around was gradually exploding. Then he suddenly woke up. It really was a long dream. It seemed Yeo Un had fallen asleep while studying, lying back on the table thinking, what was that? I must have dozed off again. Eon rubbed his eyes, looking dazed and confused. What was that dream? Really a weird nonsense dream, if I'm going to dream. At least let me dream something good, like winning the lottery or something. Then he stretched and yawned. Still sleepy, night covered the whole sky. The buildings had long been lit up. The tables and chairs of the shop have also been neatly cleaned up. Eon held the coffee cup handle and carried the owner's backpack back here. Oh Yu-Do stood from afar and threw something towards him. Hey Eon, catch this. He quickly caught it easily, looking at the thing in his hand. This is from Yu-Do, he immediately explained. It's whiskey chocolate that the bar owner gave to you, to share with Hae In if you meet her. It's expensive, so break it up and share it with the other part-timers too. She looked at him with a sly smile covering her mouth, her eyes full of implication. If the two of you eat this together, maybe tonight's atmosphere will become spicy. So what? Hee. Hearing that, Yeo Un immediately shouted, Sister, don't say meaningless things like that. Going to the stairs of GA station, the sky was already dark. No one was at GA. Ion looked at the thing in his hand while walking and thinking. Anyway, whiskey chocolate is something I haven't eaten in a long time. The last time I ate it was probably when I was a kid, sneaking a piece in my dad's room without knowing what it was. Upon arriving, he saw Hae Un already sitting there, wearing headphones and listening to music. Yeo Un called out to her, and Hae Un heard the voice, took off her headphones and looked at him. Ah, Yeo Un, she said excitedly as he sat down beside her. What are you listening to? Hae Un replied. Just a playlist I made myself. Sometimes I put them together when I feel bored. Ion exclaimed, Oh, like Daisy? She smiled and answered, Kind of. He quickly took out a piece and offered it to her. Ah, Hae In, do you want a piece? Whiskey chocolate. Hae In looked at him shyly, a bit cautious. Whiskey chocolate? What is that? It's chocolate with a whiskey flavor, Ion said, surprised. Huh, you don't know? Whiskey chocolate? You've never tried it? Hae In explained. No, I don't really like chocolate. He suddenly remembered. Ah, right. You said you don't like sweets. Ion was a bit embarrassed, shy, and awkward. Then maybe you won't like this either. It's a pretty sweet kind of chocolate. Hae In took the piece of chocolate from his hand. She put it in her mouth with a calm face. No, I'll try it. He was surprised. After eating, her face blushed a little. This flavor is really unique. It feels like there's a hint of alcohol in it. Ion, sitting next to her, was also eating. Smiling, he said, Yeah, there's really about 1% alcohol in it. Hearing that, Hae In was curious. Oh, really? So will eating it make you drunk? He laughed and replied, No, not to that extent. It's more like an appetizer to drink alcohol with. I see. She bit her lip and looked at him with a suggestive gaze. Just looking at you, it's perfect to give to someone you want to drink with. Hae In's face blushed as she smiled mischievously. Right? A little bit naughty, huh? Hearing this, Yeo Un was speechless, forced to laugh, his face all red and tipsy. Do you want another piece? Hae In laughed happily. What is it, Yeo Un? Ha ha, now you're openly naughty, he said laughing. Suddenly she looked at him solemnly and smiled sincerely. Anyway, thanks for the treat. I don't like sweets. So maybe I've lived my whole life without knowing this thing existed. She narrowed her eyes indifferently but smiled brightly at him. Thanks for being naughty. Jeon Yu Ion sipped his coffee but his eyes glanced lightly at her. his smiling face full of delight thinking about that phrase, "Thanks for being naughty." Suddenly she noticed, "Wait, you're drinking coffee? Drinking coffee at this hour? Won't you be able to sleep?" She was embarrassed and explained, "The day after tomorrow I have to submit my project, so I plan to stay up all night to finish it. Anyway, I don't have class tomorrow." Hearing that, she just quietly looked at him. The GA station announcement speaker also rang. "The next train is arriving soon," Yeo Un advised. "Don't overwork yourself." He smiled wryly and replied, "Well, I'm used to it by now." Everywhere was covered by darkness, only one room still had the light on. Yeo Un sat tiredly at the computer desk. The sound of continuous keyboard typing echoed in the quiet space. Yeo Un's eyes were half closed, his face full of fatigue with dark circles clearly visible. He checked the time on his phone and thought awkwardly, it's almost 5 a.m. No wonder my eyes keep drooping like this. I should take a short break to refresh myself. Anyway, I'm almost done." Suddenly he saw something on his phone that woke him up completely. Sleep? What sleep? On the phone screen was an Instagram post from long afternoon. They uploaded a suggested playlist. "Previously, I followed this somewhere else but stopped and always regretted it. So they started it too. This playlist has many good songs that few people know." He decided to play the song suggested in the post earlier. "Alright, then while listening to this, let's finish the project." He pressed play, and suddenly everything went back to when Yeo Un flew down and raised her hand to catch Yeo Un. He tried to defend himself against the strong wind, struggling to ask if this world was ending. So where would we go? Yeo Un's face remained calm, her index finger placed near her mouth as if pondering. She gently looked at him, suggesting, "How about Liverpool, the hometown of the Beatles, or Manchester, where Oasis was born? Both are in England, you music fanatic." Then Yeo Un spoke again. "Does it really matter where we go as long as we're together? Wherever we go, that place will be our new world." Suddenly, it was the image of Yeo Un and Yeo Un. They looked very intimate, her fair shoulder with a flushed face smiling brightly. Looking at him lying below in surprise, the atmosphere was very mysterious, her hand gently pressed against his cheek. Yeo Un's face was flushed, not understanding what was happening but feeling a bit shy. Yeo Un looked at him with a rosy face. She looked very attractive and full of charm. She lay on top of him nervously, her hand gripping the bedsheets tightly, the two of them mysterious. Their lips were about to touch when suddenly he startled awake, his face blushing from embarrassment. It turned out it was just a dream. Lying on the bed, clothes messy, hair tousled, his face embarrassed from the dream. Sitting up in a daze, feeling downhearted, it was just that useless dream again. Damn it, only knowing how to blame himself. Sitting and recalling, his whole body blushed like a tomato, filled with many thoughts, looking at the roll of paper on the table. He could only blame that innocent thing, all because of that chocolate wine. The coffee shop atmosphere was quiet, but the feeling was very comfortable. He continued on, and she cheerfully greeted everyone inside the shop. "Hello," she said. Seeing that, Oyudu happily responded, "Yes, welcome, dear customer," contrasting with her excitement. He felt frustrated and awkward. He had told her not to come anymore, but she happily ordered, "Give me a hot chocolate and a lava cake, please." Oyudu responded enthusiastically, "Yes, would you like to have it here or take away?" She gently replied, "Here, I will drink here." "Okay, we will notify you with a buzzer when it's ready," overhearing the conversation outside between the two. They made him feel embarrassed and uncomfortable. Oyuzu, standing next to him, reminded him, "Prepare a cup of hot chocolate." He was a bit surprised but quickly agreed, "Yes, sir," working while thinking, feeling annoyed. What is this? Why did she come here again? So annoying. He glanced sideways at her. Seeing Jun sitting arranging the machine and keyboard on the table, it seemed she would work at the cafe. Don't tell me she came because of me. Whatever, just pretend nothing happened. If I keep thinking about it, it will never end. He tried to dismiss those thoughts and continued working, loudly announcing, "Number 11, hot chocolate and lava cake for the customer are ready." She turned back to the counter to get her drink and cake. He just said, "Enjoy your meal, as usual." She said nothing, silently looked at him, then carried the tray away. Suddenly, she spoke softly. "Excuse me, what time do you close today?" Sister Yoon answered cautiously, a bit hesitant. The cafe is open until 11:30, and the last order is at 11. She smiled lightly. "All right, thank you." Seeing Jun not mentioning him like before, he was a bit surprised, confused, and relieved, thinking, "What? I thought she would say something different, but she didn't." He continued to doubt. She really just came to drink hot Coca-Cola. The next day at Yul Run's cafe, she came again. Today she looked really fresh and full of energy. "Hello," Oyudu warmly welcomed her again. "Yes, welcome, dear customer." Seeing June, he thought she came again. She happily ordered, "1 hot chocolate and 1 egg tart, please." Oyudu replied, "Yes, will you be having it here?" "Yes, that's right." Standing inside, he continued to listen to their conversation. June looked a bit confused watching her behavior. He thought, why does she keep coming? Does she have any business here? The next day, June came to the cafe again. She kept her usual energetic attitude, greeting everyone. "Hello," Oyudu was still the cheerful greeter. "Welcome, dear customer. Wow, we have a regular." He no longer felt as surprised as the first time she came. "1 hot chocolate and 1 cheesecake, please." "Yes, sir." The two laughed happily like close friends. Suddenly, Run asked Oyuzu, "Is that right? Does your place have a point card or something similar?" She immediately replied, Yes, if customers collect 10 stamps, we will give a free Americano. Oh, only Americano? She asked. No, customers can exchange for other drinks by paying the price difference. Then make me a loyalty card. Yes, I understand. Saying that, she turned and left the counter. After June left, Oyuzu immediately muttered, interesting, still asking about loyalty cards and stuff. Nowadays, everyone uses apps and accumulates points, so no one really cares anymore, right? Hearing her say that, Yeo Un, who was quietly working behind, also spoke up. That's just her style. Wherever she goes, she collects souvenirs, said An Diem-tin evenly. She said she prefers things that can be kept physically, rather than digital stuff. She even buys Blu-ray discs of her favorite movies. Hearing that, Oyudu was surprised. Huh? What? You know her? Aileen explained. She's a senior who went to the same university as me. She graduated earlier while I was on leave. Oyudu looked a bit embarrassed and shy. Oh, so that's it. Then at least say hello, right? You can still work while greeting. Thinking that, she wondered if she was being too harsh. Eon was embarrassed and awkward. No, it's nothing. Even if it was, we're not that close. Also, I don't really have anything to say. Hearing his explanation, she just stayed silent. He continued working. Enjoy your meal. Thank you, she said, watching him. Oyudu thought to herself, anyway, this IU really lies badly. She says they're not close but remembers everything the other person likes. Thinking that, she felt a bit upset. I shouldn't dig deeper. Everyone has their own past. Vun sat on the other side, face happy, sipping her hot chocolate. Thinking so, Oyudu cunningly calculated. Besides, gossiping about stuff like this from outside is more fun. Hearing stories is better. Thinking by herself, she found it amusing and giggled quietly in a corner. Hey. There was even a youth drama playing live right next to her. It was already dark and the cafe was closing. Ayan finished everything and called out, "Boss, I'm going home first." She stood at the counter cheerfully responding, "Oh, well done. Be careful going home." He went outside leisurely with a relaxed attitude on the way. Excited thinking about the upcoming plan, I've already applied for the summer internship. Now I just need to prepare for the official recruitment and wait for the final exams. Stretching while walking after working all day, I'm insanely busy. Not many lectures, but a huge amount of homework. Then Island stood silently, face downcast, thinking of June. He couldn't help but wonder why he kept coming. Thinking about it, he raised his hand to his forehead. His face showed obvious exhaustion. I'm buried in work, about to die. So her being nearby made it even harder to concentrate, but I can't just kick customers out while working. After thinking for a while, he arrived at the train station. Suddenly, EL stopped, a bit surprised. Ahead was still Haein, sitting on a bench waiting, head nodding off. Yul softly asked, "Miss Haein?" Coming closer to observe her carefully, he was curious if she was dozing off. Yul gently and slowly sat down next to Haein, worried. This was the first time he saw her sleep like this. Was she really that tired today? Suddenly, Haein opened her eyes and looked at him. "Yul, you're here?" He forced a smile. "Yes, Miss Haein. Are you busy today?" She rubbed her eyes and replied, I had a recording schedule this morning but forgot and stayed up all night. Then did some composing contracts and other small tasks, so I'm exhausted." Hearing that, Eon happily suggested, "Then just rest until the train comes. I'll wake you when it arrives." Haein looked dazed at him. "Please, I'm counting on you." As soon as she finished speaking, she leaned into his chest and dozed off, surprising him. Haein looked up and asked him, "Can you hold me for a bit?" Ion shyly replied, "Yes." He thought she was leaning against the wall, but quickly adapted and held her shoulder tightly. He sat upright, stiff, holding Haein close to him. She was slender and soft, and her hair smelled nice too. He quietly bent down to observe her, his eyes sparkling as if because her cheeks were lightly flushed. It was delightful, even amidst the busy filming schedule. This brief moment with Haein made me truly happy. He couldn't hold back and leaned toward her, eyes closed as if savoring and cherishing this moment. Looking at Haein, his heart fluttered so much that he wanted to escape and forget all work, study, and part-time jobs, and just wanted to spend the whole day with Haein. Suddenly, Haein startled. Her confused face also made him awkward. "You're up already?" Yeo Un still held tightly onto Haein's shoulders. She leaned fully into his chest. Seeing that, Yeo Un felt a bit embarrassed and forced a smile, asking softly, "What's wrong?" Haein smiled faintly, her eyes sparkling, gentle and full of affection. Looking at him happily, she teased him, "Ian, your breath on my neck makes me ticklish." He blushed. "Sorry. Can you tell me what shampoo you're using?" No problem." The two chatted like that for a while before he left the train station alone. Yeo stretched his arms and yawned. "So tired. I need to go home, shower, and sleep immediately." Looking down at his phone, he suddenly remembered, but before that, he must not forget to take a photo and send it to Haein. Should I go out today and take a photo to change the atmosphere? Taking photos at home all the time is boring. Thinking that, he immediately raised his hand to take a photo the way Haein had shown him before. As he was about to take the shot, suddenly his phone rang. Someone was calling. He looked at the screen, puzzled. "Who is this calling at this hour? Did Dad change his number?" "Quickly," he answered. He spoke first. "Hello." The voice on the other end said, "I knew it. You still haven't changed your number?" Hearing her voice, Yeo Un was very surprised, standing frozen. He replied, Is that you, sister? His voice trembled. She was pleased to hear him speak, her voice trembling with delight. Ha ha, I only said a few words and you already know. Finally, you admit to giving up pretending not to know me. Hearing this from her, Yeo Un couldn't believe his eyes, stunned and shocked. He was confused, his face a bit tense, not knowing what to do, staring at the phone screen, opposite the other side of the call. June laughed amusedly, hearing him ask, "What's this new number? Did you change your phone?" She replied, surprised, "No, I changed it a long time ago." June continued, "You didn't know? It's been a long time since you and I talked." Yeo Un, irritated, rubbed his head showing discomfort. "Why did you call me then?" he asked. She softened her tone, just suddenly. "I was about to sleep but suddenly thought of you, so I called. Don't you think of me sometimes?" Hearing June ask, he felt annoyed, furrowed brows, a displeased face. "Hello, sister." Yeo Un was about to hang up, ending the conversation, but June panicked. "Don't hang up," she scolded him. "Why are you so cold to me? When I came to the cafe, you didn't want to talk to me either. Isn't that a bit too much?" Hearing those reproaches made him uncomfortable, slightly displeased, frowning, resentful about that matter. "I'm just asking to be sure. Why do you keep coming to the cafe? What do you want from me?" June laughed lightly. "I don't want anything. I just come there often because it's near my workplace." She continued, "I always have work to do even after finishing work, so I just sit there to finish my tasks." June softly asked with hidden meaning, "So besides that reason, could there be any other reason?" Yeo Un felt as if she was whispering directly into his ear, so genuinely it sent chills down his spine. He raised the phone and looked at it. "I feel like I'm getting sucked back into her conversation. I should stop this." Yeo Un regained his willpower. "It's just a little annoying. I feel bothered seeing acquaintances at work. It feels like I'm being followed." June just sat on the bed, humming and listening to him, her face thoughtful, hand raised to forehead, fingers tangled in baby hairs. Seeing her silent, he didn't speak, then suddenly broke the silence. "Are you in love with someone?" Hearing that, he was a bit startled, eyes spinning, staring at the phone because of that question. June laughed out loud. "Seeing you silent like that, I guess the answer is yes. Your reactions are always honest." It looked funny, then she softened her voice, pressing close to the phone. "Anyway, if that's the case, don't worry. I don't expect anything from you." Jun continued to confess. "When I see you." Yeo Un on the other side tried to patiently and helplessly wait for her to finish speaking. Then suddenly she changed the subject. "Oh, do you remember the 24-hour cafe we used to go to?" He was surprised. A 24-hour cafe. She lay down on the bed, comfortably chatting. "Yeah, we stayed up all night there a few times. We always went there to do homework, drink, and wait for the first train. You were by my side when I didn't want to go home." Ayan continued to silently listen to her. Ayan frowned, feeling uncomfortable. Because he had to keep listening to her talk about old stories, he replied, "I don't know how we did that." Ayan still didn't realize and kept going. She remembered everything the songs played in that cafe, even the dirty bathroom, because that was the happiest time she ever had. The two of them really had joyful moments together. She turned over and said, "Hey, do you really not remember anything? Didn't we go watch Bong's new movie? After that seminar? That movie was pretty messed up." Ayan on the other side of the engine was silent for a moment, then spoke. "Honestly, I remember everything you said." He seriously denied it, "but I don't feel anything about it. To me, it's just a story, so no matter how much you say, nothing will change." This time she truly felt him very clearly, as if he was right next to her but cold and indifferent. Hearing that, June's face looked a bit funny as she smiled. She replied, "Oh, all right, I'll just tell old stories and then—" "I won't call you at this hour anymore," Run continued. "You don't mind if I keep coming to that cafe instead of calling, right? It's not an excuse, I just really like that cafe," she said. Eon replied indifferently, "Up to you. I'm not the owner, I can't tell you what to do." He thought silently. "When I have a full-time job, I'll leave that place as soon as possible. Bye, Yoon." He was about to hang up, but she stopped him once again. "What? Wait," he asked irritably. "What else is there?" Yoon replied. "It's not just that. I just want to tell you that I'm moving out of my parents' house, and what I want to say is—" She softened her voice, eyes shining with anticipation. "My place is only 2 train stops from work. If you get bored, come visit me, okay?" At this moment, Elon had really reached his limit. His face flushed with anger as he shouted loudly, "Why do I have to come? It's not like living a luxurious life. Doing this feels too much effort," Miss Chu begged. "So let's go eat, okay?" Ayao scratched his face thinking, there's nothing urgent anyway. He turned to ask and saw her frowning again. "Then where should we eat?" Yao asked the owner again. Oh, Yuzu suddenly strode off angrily, leaving only one sentence behind, confusing him. "Watch the counter for me for a moment." In the cozy space of the cafe,